a Muslim soldier, alone with a beautiful woman who had already surrendered herself to him, in a foreign land, in the dark of night, no one watching. And he pulled a dagger and stabbed himself in the foot. This is the real story they never taught you. India Campaign, Volume 3, Historical Series Novel, Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi. Historical Series Novel, Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi. India. Campaign. Authors. Preface. Authoruse. This is the third volume of the Mahmud Ghaznavi's India Campaign series. Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi is renowned in the history of the subcontinent as the great hero who led 17 campaigns into India. He became even more famous for his attacks on two of ancient India's most historic temples, Somnath and Thaneshwar, and for smashing their idols to pieces. But in the textbooks of the subcontinent and in historical accounts, a more dishonorable picture of Mahmud has been painted than his true glory deserves. The histories written by Hindu and British authors have portrayed this great hero in such a way that his fame has been overshadowed. The histories written with an ideology of Muslim hatred, and subsequently the Muslim writers who base their work on those false histories have narrated Mahmud's life and deeds in a way that provides no understanding for the present and future generations. That he was truly a devoted soldier of Islam, that he governed by the rules and regulations of Islam meticulously. All his efforts were dedicated to repelling the enemies of the nation and to the expansion and consolidation of the Islamic system of governance. If one reads the histories written by biased authors, it seems as if Sultan Mahmud was a plunderer, aggressor, and tyrant, that he repeatedly attacked the temples of India and looted gold, silver, and jewels, bringing them back to Ghazni. He had no desire for the welfare of the people of India nor any wish to establish a Muslim sultanate centered on India. If his sole desire had truly been to help the oppressed Muslims of India and to spread the light of Islam by removing idol worship, then why did he not settle in India like the Mughals and establish an Islamic system of governance? Such numerous slanders have been attached to his character, defiling it. Why did Mahmud repeatedly campaign into India? Why were the temples his target? Even after successful victories, why did he have to return again and again to Ghazni? The answers to all these questions, my effort to present Sultan Mahmud, a soldier devoted to Islam, is this book. Consulting reliable documents and authentic history, I have tried to portray Mahmud's true life story. Author's preface. In truth, just like Salahuddin Ayyubi, Mahmud also had to simultaneously fight against traitors of his own community and against the polytheist enemies. Every time he launched a campaign into India, even before the campaign could end, news would arrive that opportunistic and power-hungry neighboring Muslim rulers had attacked Ghazni. Mahmud was forced to return to Ghazni merely to protect his own capital. Some biased histories have written that Sultan Mahmud conducted 17 campaigns into India, but have failed to mention that the Hindu kings and Maharajas launched attacks towards Ghazni hundreds of times in order to overthrow Mahmud. Sultan Mahmud's repeated campaigns into India were essentially a strategy to keep the enemies in check. Had he failed to keep them in check, the tide of Hindu idol worship from Hindustan would have spread all the way to Arabia. Mahmud's father, Subutagin, had left this will for him. Son, never let the kings of India remain at ease. They want to overthrow the Ghazni Sultanate and flood it with the waves of idol worship, even capsizing Kaaba. Just as Muslims were forcibly converted to Hinduism in the time of Muhammad bin Qasim, Hindus are now forcibly making Muslims into Hindus. To protect their faith, you must demolish the fortress of idol worship. You must liberate the counter-suppressed human beings of India and bring the message of Islam to them. Renowned and reliable historians such as Al-Biruni, Farishta, Gardisi, Utbi, and Bayhaqi have written that Sultan Mahmud was the disciple of the greatest saint and guardian of that era, Abu Hassan Kirkani. In the conquered territories, Mahmud established a fully Islamic system of governance under his guidance. He would personally go to Kirkani's court. He never summoned his spiritual guide to his own court. Rather, he would go to the saint's court in disguise and seek spiritual guidance and counsel. He would conceal his identity and sometimes introduce himself as a messenger of the Sultan. Once, Abu Hassan Kirkani publicly declared in his gathering, "I like to think that the Sultan's messenger who comes from Ghazni is the Sultan himself. That is a true sign of being a Muslim." Authors praise Farsh Mahmud was very passionate about spreading the Quran, Hadith, and religious knowledge. The scholars in his court were given their due respect. His army was always outnumbered by the enemy, yet he was victorious every time. On many occasions his defeat seemed almost certain. Then he would dismount from his horse, offer 2 rakats of prayer in the battlefield, and declare, "I have received the assurance of victory. The victory will be ours." And indeed it was always so. Many people consider Salahuddin Ayyubi and Sultan Mahmud to be warriors of the same character and qualities. Of course, their goals and objectives were the same. The difference between them was only in terms of battlefield and adversary. Ayyubi's opponents were the Jews and the Crusaders, while Mahmud's main opponents were the Hindu polytheist ruling class. The Jews and Christians used beautiful trained spy women to wound Salahuddin Ayyubi's soldiers, while against Sultan Mahmud they used dark magic. However, the intelligence activities of the Hindus were weaker than that of the Jews and Christians, while the Sultan's spies were active and sharp. Which it must be said that while Salahuddin Ayyubi's intelligence agents were firm and unwavering in their mission objectives, Mahmud's intelligence agents were quite weak on the moral side. Many of them would fall into the traps of Hindu women and magic, or the Muslim name-only courtiers of Hindustan would capture them. Even so, Sultan Mahmud's intelligence operations were more effective than those of Salahuddin Ayyubi. This book has been written in a narrative style like a story to make history enjoyable for the readers, especially the youth. Yet in reality, all of it is drawn from the fabric of true history. I hope our new generation and youth, by reading this series, will come to understand the difference between friend and enemy, learn about their conduct and character, and by recognizing themselves, find the direction to walk in the footsteps of their predecessors. Chapter begins, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful." Among the neighboring Muslim rulers, Ilik Khan was the most dangerous enemy of the Sultan. Taking advantage of the Sultan's absence, he had once launched a military attack with his troops to capture Ghazni, but he was badly defeated by the Ghazni forces and had to flee for his life. On receiving news from Hindustan, Sultan Mahmud himself returned to Ghazni swiftly and repelled Ilik Khan. Ilik Khan was constantly seeking to capture Khorasan, which was under the Sultan's rule. Honored Sultan, Ilik Khan is a venomous snake. As long as he lives, he will strike us with his fangs whenever he gets the chance, said one of 2 intelligence officers who had come to Sultan Mahmud. One of them worked within Ilik Khan's army under Sultan's orders. They informed him, "This time in your absence, Ilik Khan tried to persuade his brothers Toga Khan and Qadir Khan to join him so they could militarily collaborate against you. Together the 3 of them wanted to march all their armies to attack and capture Ghazni. But Toga and Qadir Khan refused to join Ilik Khan against you. Angered by this, Ilik Khan launched a military campaign against his brother Toga Khan's kingdom. But upon reaching a place called Ozgand, his forces were struck by heavy snowstorms and blizzards. As a result, Ilik Khan's soldiers' lives were put at great risk. A large number of cavalry and soldiers perished in the heavy snowstorms. A major damage was inflicted by the forces of nature. Ilik Khan was forced to abandon the military campaign and return to his own capital. "What does Toga Khan want?" the Sultan asked. "He is your ally." Our colleague who works within Toga Khan's army has informed us that after Ilik Khan's campaign failed due to natural disaster, he sent a signal to Toga Khan. If he launches another military campaign against his brother's kingdom, Toga Khan would form an alliance with the Sultan. Can Toga Khan be trusted? Honored Sultan, no one can truly know another person's heart, but from outward appearances it seems Toga Khan is eager to form an alliance with you. That means to protect his own kingdom and rule from the tyranny of a ruthless, power-hungry aggressor like Ilik Khan. Toga Khan is keen to ally with us, the Sultan explained. Very well. I will not formally announce my acceptance of his alliance offer, but I must meet with Toga Khan once in person. These power-hungry Muslim rulers have become shackles around our feet. You must very secretly inform Toga Khan that I intend to meet with him soon. He does not need to come to me. I will not go to him either. He should come somewhere outside of Ghazni, wherever it is, however far, and I will go there myself to meet him. For these reasons, the Sultan could not fully share in the joy of his victories. The sword of civil war and the revenge of power-hungry rulers of his own nation always hung over the Sultan's head. He now felt that the time had come to crush the heads of these venomous snakes within his own house. With utmost secrecy, the Sultan's intelligence agents delivered the message to Toga Khan. Toga Khan had no objection to the meeting. He named a place at a safe distance from Ghazni. 4 days later, the time for the meeting of the two rulers was fixed at that location. Toga Khan arrived at the designated location right on time. The place was full of natural beauty. Beside a fast-flowing river, in a green and lush spot filled with dense trees and wildflowers, Toga Khan and the Sultan met. The Sultan embraced Toga Khan warmly. "Is it true that you wish to form an alliance with me? I was thinking of sending a messenger to you with this proposal, and right at that moment your message arrived." "I am eager to enter into a friendship agreement with you," said Toga Khan. "Is your intention to form this alliance for the security of your kingdom, or because it is Allah's instruction that Muslims should remain united? For which reason? If you wish to form an alliance for the security of your kingdom, I have no interest in such an alliance. I can only form an alliance under the authority of the Baghdad Caliphate. I want all independent Muslim kingdoms to exist, and all of them to acknowledge Baghdad as the center of the Muslim world. To keep Islam as a victorious force, all Muslim rulers must unite under the Caliphate. There is no alternative," the Sultan said. Upon hearing Sultan Mahmud's words, a faint mocking smile appeared at the corner of Toga Khan's lips. He said, "I considered Sultan Mahmud to be very far-sighted and knowledgeable, but I can see that your intellect and military skill are equally matched by your battlefield strategy. It seems your religious thinking is very strong. One might say you are excessively devoted to religion in matters of faith. Say clearly what you wish to convey," the Sultan said. "The Caliph you have established as the servant of Islam and as the central authority. He is just as power-hungry and empire-building as my brother and your neighboring Muslim rulers. These people are always conspiring to snatch Ghazni and Khorasan from you," Toga Khan said. "Are you speaking of Baghdad's Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi?" the Sultan asked. "I know my words will not seem credible to you," said Toga Khan. "I wanted to inform you of this matter quite some time ago, but because of my brother Ilik Khan, I did not want to increase his enmity. At the same time, I also feared that my words might not be believed by you. You might become even more suspicious of me. I too, like you, aspire to a central caliphate, but I am not willing to see that caliph, who, even while being the ruler of one region, engages in plots to expand his own kingdom, seated on the throne of central leadership. Toga Khan, before speaking ill of the reigning caliph, think carefully. If this allegation is proven false, I will launch a military campaign and teach your kingdom a lesson." The Sultan burst out in anger. Toga Khan laughed. With a slight air of mystery in that laughter, he said, "When the arrogance of power appears in a person, he begins to see even his own mistakes as wisdom, and does not like to hear anything beyond his own perceptions. Let the Sultan free himself from the pride of military power. What would I gain by slandering the caliph and turning you against him? Try to understand reality. Look, in this region there is not a single ruler who has not been part of conspiracies against you. Only I and Qadir Khan did not participate in military campaigns against you. That we did not take part in campaigns against you does not mean we were militarily weak. We could have collectively become a great force against you. But I and Qadir Khan have always been opposed to civil war, and have been hopeful for the success of your India campaigns. You may not know, Ilik Khan not only incited me to join the war against you, he also, because of my refusal to respond to his call, attacked me. He also conducted a military campaign against you." The Sultan completed the words that Toga Khan had left unsaid. Natural storms and snowstorms foiled that campaign. Apart from that, if you wish to know anything about your own personal affairs, you can ask me, Toga Khan. If news about my personal matters has already reached you, then there should be no doubt of any kind between what I wish to say and what I am willing to say. And even if your doubt about my affairs is not resolved, then you should understand that your intelligence agents posted here have done no useful work at all. They have only been collecting their salaries," said Toga Khan. "Speak, what do you wish to say?" the Sultan said, addressing Toga Khan. "The current Caliph, Qadir Billah Abbasi, is power-hungry and seeks to expand his empire," said Toga Khan. "Have you noticed half of Khorasan is under the Caliph's rule and the other half under yours? The Caliph is eager to seize the portion under your control as well. For this goal he has used the power-hungry Ilik Khan. The Caliph has promised Ali Khan that if he launches a military campaign against you, the Caliph will not openly provide military help, but will covertly assist with transportation, weapons, and financial support. If the Caliph truly desired the unity, solidarity, and centralization of Muslims, his proper course of action would have been to launch a military campaign against the disorderly Ilik Khan. Instead, he is outwardly encouraging you to campaign into Hindustan, while behind the scenes wanting you to remain busy in Hindustan, so that your military power is depleted there, causing you to become weak militarily. The Caliph is awaiting the day when he will receive news that you have been defeated in Hindustan, or have died on the battlefield. The Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi has united Amir Abul Mulk, Dara bin Qaboos, and Abul Qasim against you. In these regions, the Caliph plays an active role behind the civil wars." Upon hearing Toga Khan's words, the Sultan's eyes turned red with anger and grief. The one he had considered the sacred guardian of the central leadership of the Muslim world. Today he was hearing that this very person was playing the role of his enemy. He was stunned. "If you want proof of these words, I will show you," said Toga Khan. "The greatest proof is this. I am your ally. If needed, my soldiers will cooperate with you. My messenger will go to you. My military power may be less, but in terms of faith, I am not weak. When Ilik Khan came to attack me, divine snowstorms and storms inflicted huge losses on him and forced him to retreat. He is a traitor of faith. When the central leader of a nation becomes a traitor of faith, that entire nation turns into a den of plunderers and bandits," the Sultan said with a grief-laden voice. Renowned historians Qasim Firishta and al-Biruni have written that Sultan Mahmud was never seen in such a bewildered state. After meeting with Toga Khan, when he returned to Ghazni, his face was disturbed. He could not say a word. His hands were trembling with restlessness. Even when the vizier asked him what had transpired with Toga Khan, he did not tell. Sultan Mahmud was a disciple of the contemporary celebrated Saint Abu Hassan Kirkani. Kirkani lived about 2 days' distance from Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud would occasionally go to his spiritual guide Abu Hassan Kirkani's presence. When he went to the guide, he felt mental peace. The burden of his heart would lighten through discussions with Kirkani about any problem. After the meeting with Toga Khan, upon hearing unwelcome news about the Baghdad Caliph, he felt such distress that his thinking faculty came to a standstill. Because the Caliph was, in his view, the center of Islamic consciousness of the Muslim world, he believed that Baghdad was the life force of Islam and Muslims' honor, dignity, and revival. But Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi was a blemish on the Islamic Sultanate. He was at times irritated at Toga Khan, and at times his anger-hatred towards the Caliph was about to burst out like a volcanic eruption. He was firmly convinced that Toga Khan had not misled him with false information. This news had made his heart restless. In such a state, he kept remembering his spiritual guide Abu Hassan Kirkani. That very day, he set off to meet Abu Hassan Kirkani. He departed at dawn and arrived at his destination by the next evening. Reaching the guide's presence, Sultan Mahmud kissed his hand and said, "A piece of news completely contrary to my belief has mentally devastated me. I am burning in terrible agony. Show me some path to peace, O guide. What has happened? Have you come back defeated from Hindustan?" asked Khwarizm. "With your prayers I will never be defeated by the idol worshippers of Hindustan. A victorious sultan is defeated only when a treacherous brother of his own nation stabs him in the back," the sultan said. "I am not at all aware of those treacherous brothers, Sultan, but do not forget, Allah is on the side of truth. Allah will help you. There is no reason for your despair," said Khwarizm. "You may know, but will you also believe it credible that Caliph al-Qadir Billah is inciting civil war against me?" "This is what Toga Khan, the brother of Ilik Khan, told me," the sultan said. Khwarizm smiled gently and said, "I know this too. When I first came to know of the caliph's dishonorable intentions, you were in Hindustan. Had you not come today, I myself would have sent you news about this matter." "Then should I consider Toga Khan's news as true? Have I been deluded all this time, believing the Khalifatul Muslimin to be the representative of Allah's messenger?" said the sultan. "Those who were truly the representatives of the Prophet have passed away," said Khwarizm. "Those who came after them and those who will come in the future. They will be caliphs who worship their own nature. The current caliph rules over a kingdom. He is also the ruler of Samarkand. He is eager to hold onto his throne at any cost. His kingdom is more important to him than everything else. Trampling all the norms of the caliphate, the current caliph has expanded his direct kingdom by building alliances with powerful and corrupt rulers. Do you not know that during your father's reign, Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi had secretly allied with the Carmathians? And then the Carmathians had become an unconquerable force. After that, when you, relying on your own steadfastness and courage, became militarily powerful and repelled 2 Ghazni attacks by the Hindus, went into their land, defeated the Hindus, brought Hindu territories under your own control, and were able to shamefully defeat the Carmathians and eliminate their tyranny and corruption. Only then did the Caliph honor you with the title of Aminul Milat wa Yaminu Dawla. He made you his trusted and obedient subject. He has no genuine desire to risk life in Hindustan to remove idol worship, spread the true message of Islam there, and free the oppressed Muslims in the kingdoms conquered by Muhammad bin Qasim from the clutches of the Brahmanists. Rather, he is alarmed by your ever-growing power. From this fear he is outwardly praising you, while behind the scenes inciting your enemies and working to deplete your strength. Is it proper for a central caliph to engage in such activities? Said the Sultan. You call him Khalifatul Muslimin. I never consider him the guardian of the Muslim world. According to Sharia, he has no worthiness to sit on the caliph's throne. There is no qualification whatsoever to be seated on the caliph's throne. Taqwa and adherence to Islamic principles are indispensable to be a caliph. Along with that, establishing unity and solidarity among Muslims instead of discord and disorder is his absolute duty. There should be no worldly greed of any kind within him. On all these considerations, he is not at all fit to be a caliph. A caliph who rules over a direct kingdom cannot remain free of corruption, said Khwarizm. Can we not remove such a caliph from power? Said Sultan Mahmud. No, because the caliphate has now become family and clan property. The caliphate, instead of being the symbol of Islam, has become the throne of personal and clan power. The primary cause of disunity and disorder in the Muslim Ummah is the corruption of the caliphate. The caliphate has now become a symbol of power, authority, and personal rule. Whoever becomes the caliph henceforth will be the same. Gradually, the Muslim Ummah will become even more fragmented. The unity, solidarity, honor, and dignity of the Ummah will be obliterated. The Muslim Sultanate will be broken into pieces. In the future, it will come to pass that caliphs, holding the Holy Quran, will declare themselves servants of Islam, but they will make enemies of Islam into friends, and friends into enemies. They will be living deceptions for the Muslim Ummah. They will create webs of flatterers and obedient servants around themselves. The Muslim Ummah will be divided on the basis of Arab, Ajami, Mizri, and Turki regional identities. Doubts will arise among Muslims even about matters of Islam. Whoever comes to power will be a tyrant, said Khaqani. What should I do in this situation, said the Sultan. I cannot flatter the Caliph. Let the Caliph know that you are aware of his conspiracies, said Khaqani. Mahmud, when a Muslim trades in faith, he begins to consider the truly faithful, honest, and principled believers as fools and liars. The rulers you have appointed in Hindustan, I fear they might again fall into the trap of worldly temptation. Two things greatly wound Muslims. One is the desire for worldly pleasure, and the other is the lure of wealth and power. Hindustan is a land of deception and enticements. I am deeply concerned whether your appointed rulers will become traitors of faith. In the future, great calamities and severe tests await you. Do not be overwhelmed by them. Should I then inform the Caliph of this matter? Said the Sultan. There should be no hesitation in speaking the truth. I too will try to inform the Caliph of the matter, said Khaqani. Returning from his spiritual guide, Abul Hasan Khaqani's presence, Sultan Mahmud sent the following bold message to Baghdad's Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi. Most of the Khorasan region, which is part of the Ghazni Sultanate, has been captured by you. I am drawing you a map of the areas within my kingdom. From the areas I mark, you will withdraw your officials and soldiers. No area of the Caliph should be directly ruled, but I know you will not agree to my proposal. I have remained silent before the Caliphate all this time, but the cherished belief of my entire life has now been proven wrong. I hope you will return the areas I have marked to us without obstruction. I hope, keeping your dignity and honor in mind, you will not resort to any kind of deception in responding to my appeal. Historians Farishta, Al-Biruni, and Qadisi have written that Caliph Qadir Billah was fully aware of Sultan Mahmud's military power. He also knew that whatever the Sultan desired and said would not go unrealized in practice. The Caliph also knew that all the inhabitants of the Ghazni region were loyal to the Sultan. So, upon receiving the Sultan's message, without any delay or excuse, he withdrew the army and officials from the portion of the Khorasan kingdom that was part of the Ghazni Sultanate and transferred it under the Sultan's control. The Caliph's quick compliance made the Sultan even more irritated. He realized this rapid surrender meant the Caliph truly had no religious consciousness within him. He was cunning and deceitful. After this, Sultan Mahmud again sent a messenger to Baghdad, demanding that Samarkand also be handed over to him, as his claim over that city was also legitimate. In response to the Sultan's message regarding Samarkand, the Caliph sent his own special envoy to the Sultan saying, "The Caliph will under no circumstances hand over Samarkand." The Caliph has also stated that if you use force to claim this demand, the Caliph will humiliate you before the entire nation. In reply, Sultan Mahmud said to the messenger, "Go to Baghdad and ask the Caliph what he wants. I will come to Baghdad with 1,000 war elephants." In burning fury, he said, "Tell the Caliph, if I am forced to come to Baghdad, I will pull out every brick of the Baghdad royal palace and load the ruins onto elephants and carry them back to Ghazni." An English historian, H. Howarth, quoting other Muslim historians, wrote that this threat from Sultan Mahmud truly frightened Caliph Qadir Billah Abbasi. The Caliph was seated in such great dignity that he could have, if he wished, commanded Sultan Mahmud to beg forgiveness. But his personal conduct was so vile that he responded to Sultan Mahmud's anger in an even more humble manner than his own position warranted. As a result, Sultan Mahmud launched a military campaign and incorporated Samarkand into his own rule, about half a century after 1512 AD had passed. Sultan Mahmud was quite reassured about the conquered kingdoms of India. The Pala king Anandpal, though still alive, had exhausted all his strength and capability. He had accepted the obedience of Sultan Mahmud. Through intelligence agents, the Sultan was regularly receiving news of the activities of the kings and Maharajas of Hindustan. One day news came to him that Raja Anandpal had died. His son young Chandrapal had now succeeded his father to the throne. The oldest and largest idol of Lord Vishnu from the Thaneshwar temple, Sultan Mahmud had taken to Ghazni, and there the Vishnu idol had been destroyed in a very humiliating manner. The dishonor of the Vishnu idol was more terrifying to the Hindus than the disgrace, however little it was. The Hindus were gripped by the fear of being cursed by the gods and goddesses for the dishonor of the Vishnu idol. The priests in the temples trembled with fear before the idols. Their belief was that the Vishnu idol had been created simultaneously with the arrival of humans on earth. The very first human also worshipped the Vishnu idol. For such dishonor of the ancient deity, the Hindus went to the banks of the Ganges, wept with tear-filled eyes, and prayed to the deity for forgiveness. When even a slight breeze came or thunder sounded in the sky, the Hindus would join their hands and pray loudly to God for forgiveness. After the death of Jaipal, Anandpal came to power and, with considerable forces, had threatened Sultan Mahmud in several battles. But in every battle, Anandpal was badly defeated by Sultan Mahmud. Finally, he signed a friendship treaty with the Sultan. Even after that, he tried to deceive and trap the Sultan, but in the end, Anandpal was forced to accept submission. Historians have written that Anandpal had become utterly crushed by repeated defeats. Especially after Sultan Mahmud captured the Thaneshwar temple, Anandpal collapsed in grief and took to his bed unable to bear the sorrow. Finally, after his death, his son young Chandrapal came to power. Upon hearing the news of Raja Anandpal's death, all the small and big kings, maharajas and chiefs of Hindustan came to Lahore and gathered for Anandpal's last rites. When Anandpal's body was burning on the funeral pyre, the king of Kannauj spoke loudly to the assembled Hindu rulers. Today we stand beside the funeral pyre of a great man who spent his entire life fighting the Muslims for the protection of the temples. He was the only ruler in Hindustan who crossed his own borders and challenged Sultan Mahmud. Due to our cowardice and selfishness, the call to prayer is now echoing from the historic temples of Hindustan. Come. Standing before the blazing funeral pyre of the brave king Anandpal, let us take an oath that we will all together restore the honor of the temples and convert the mosques back into temples. I take this vow to avenge Lord Vishnu. I will tear out every brick of Ghazni, said the king of Kannauj. Every assembled king, maharaja, sage and priest, moved by the heat of the flames of Anandpal's blazing funeral pyre, vowed that they would halt the ever-expanding tide of Islam in India even by forming a human wall. Each one swore to convert the mosques of the Muslims into temples, to convert Muslims into Hindus, and to transform Ghazni into the capital of Mahabharata. Anandpal's successor, young Chandrapal, stood silently in the row of assembled kings shedding tears. The crown prince, young Chandrapal, should also say something at this gathering. He is the reigning king now, said one priest. The time for grief has passed. Rajputs do not weep. They convert grief into power with the fresh blood from their chests. Young Chandrapal pushed through the crowd and stepped further forward. Turning from his father's blazing funeral pyre to face the assembled kings and maharajas, he said, "You have all made bold vows, but tell me, how many among you will actually fulfill those vows? Why could you not build a dam to hold back the tide of Islam until now? When the Muslims marched toward the Thaneshwar, where was this power and bravado of yours? Here, converting mosques into temples and converting Muslims into Hindus is not a very difficult task, Rajputs. Do not fear drowning in a sea of blood. All of you have praised my father greatly, but father fought every single battle in his territory. Many among you sent us some soldiers so that we could keep the Muslims professionally at bay. In words, you show such courage, but in action, it is the complete opposite. You want Sultan Mahmud's onward march to be stopped right here while you rule your kingdoms without any trouble. Maharaj, what exactly do you wish to say? One king asked Chandrapal. I want to say clearly, to keep my kingdom safe, I will take the Muslims as friends. If Sultan Mahmud attacks my kingdom, I will fight, but I will not raise my hand against innocent Muslims here," said Chandrapal. "So you are accepting friendship and allegiance to Mahmud?" asked the king of Kannauj. "Yes, I will pay tribute to Mahmud and will try to remain in his allegiance. Do you not know that the Muslims living here, although residing in Hindustan, are loyal to the Ghazni Sultan?" said another king. "Do you not know that many Hindus live in Ghazni itself, and there is even a separate Hindu unit in the Ghazni army? Has anyone from there rebelled and come here? Their possession includes sharp cavalry horses, war elephants, and modern weapons. They can move around there in complete freedom. Has anyone fled from there to Hindustan so far? Not all Muslims here are our enemies. Many are very loyal to us," said Chandrapal. Suddenly pushing through the crowd of women, a beautiful young woman came and stood beside Chandrapal in the row of kings and maharajas. She grabbed the sword from Chandrapal's hand, and raising it high said, "You all know. I am this man's wife. Tell him. Either throw me into his father's burning funeral pyre, or kill me with this sword. I declare clearly, I am a Rajput's daughter. My father fought and died alongside the Muslims. I will take revenge for the dishonor of my religion and avenge my father's blood. From today I am severing all marital ties with my husband. He is a coward. I cannot have any connection with a person who accepts the obedience of the Ghazni Sultan." Chandrapal rushed toward the young woman, but at that moment another young man stepped between them and quickly snatched the sword from the woman's hand. This young man was Bhimpal, Anandpal's second son and Chandrapal's younger brother. Historians have referred to him as Bhimpalado. Bhimpal was very bold and fearless. Bhimpal stopped Chandrapal and said, "Be warned, Chandrapal, there is no one here who will come forward in your support. If you raise your hand against this woman, you will forget that I am your brother and her husband's sibling. From now on I shall be the rightful heir of my father's throne. Only he who is capable of avenging his father's insult can be the successor to the throne." Bhimpal turned to face the crowd and, raising his sword, said, "If I refuse to accept the obedience of the Ghazni Sultan and take the vow to avenge Lord Vishnu's dishonor, will you then accept me as the legitimate heir to my father's throne? Yes, you are the worthy successor of Maharaja Jaipal and Maharaja Anandpal," declared the chief priest. Right after this, a voice rose from the gathering. "Seat Chandrapal aside, take the sword from Chandrapal, and let Bhimpal be crowned Maharaja." Right before everyone's eyes, the victory cry for Bhimpal rose. In step with it, the flames of Anandpal's funeral pyre rose higher. The leaping flames of the pyre, the hissing sound at the peak, and Bhimpal's victory cry drowned out the very existence of Chandrapal's practicality. Within moments, Anandpal's far-sighted elder son was defeated by Brahmanical extremism and reduced to an ordinary prince. In his place, Anandpal's fierce and short-sighted second son, Bhimpal, was coronated on the throne with the support of the kings, maharajas and priests. Bhimpal was crowned Maharaja of Punjab. Peace be upon him, and the rules and prohibitions of their religion. The governance of Maharaja Nandri was confined within the two forts, and in the conquered kingdom outside, Sultan Mahmud had given instructions to establish Allah's kingdom as per Allah's instructions. To teach the new Muslims of Kashmir religious education, a large number of people trained in Islamic education from Peshawar, Lahore, Multan and Berar had been brought and dispersed in the new area to provide religious education and lead prayers. In the Kashmir area, many mosques had been constructed. In almost every village, one mosque was built from wood. At that time, the common people of this area of India considered the praise of their kings and maharajas as their primary source of religion. The ordinary subjects of this area considered the kings and maharajas as the worldly representatives of the gods. In reality, their religious belief was confined within the freedom to live and eat. Oppressed, exploited and tormented, when these people saw the Muslim soldiers victorious. They directly witnessed the equality, brotherhood, and impartial policy of the Muslims. Then spontaneously, without any persuasion or use of force, they accepted Islam in groups. To strengthen the consciousness and belief of Islam in the hearts of these new and inexperienced citizens, Sultan Mahmud was compelled to return to Ghazni urgently. But for the defeated Hindu kings and Maharajas, this Islam-spreading initiative of the Sultan was even more painful than losing the kingdom. Bhimpal did not take refuge in any safe fort, but went into hiding in remote village areas. When he was informed that Sultan Mahmud had left India and gone to Ghazni, then Raja Bhimpal came out from his hiding place by a difficult route and reached Lahore. A long time after hearing the news of Bhimpal's return to Lahore, all the kings and Maharajis of the entire area came to Lahore and gathered together. Not only the kings and Maharajas, the renowned priests and pundits of various famous temples of India also came and presented themselves. In a meeting under Bhimpal's leadership, discussions on various plans to stop the ever-increasing spread of Islam in India began. All the priests and pundits were blaming the military rulers and leaders for the uninterrupted defeats and failures. Some priests and pundits presented plans to take effective initiatives to kill Sultan Mahmud. In a low voice, it was also said that Sultan Mahmud must be stopped at this side of the Sindhu River. The opportunity to enter Peshawar must not be given, and the soldiers he has left here should be surrounded and their food and water supply cut off, and arrangements should be made to kill them by starvation and thirst. But however many timely proposals were raised in the conference of these kings, Maharajas, priests and pundits, it was not possible to reach any collective firm decision. The conference ended mostly in indecision. The main reason for the disunity and lack of decisive resolution was each king, Maharaja and priest pundit's effort to preserve their own authority and kingdom. At one point, the chief priest of Lahore raised his voice and said, "Everyone is now terrified of Muslims. Yet in number, Muslims are always few. Muslims have come from so far away and fought here. Every person here, young and old, is the enemy of Muslims. The soil and earth here are all enemies of Muslim soldiers. Yet even so, Muslims have been conquering one kingdom after another. We all need to think about this. Why is this happening? Is Sultan Mahmud some god, a jinn, or a demon? In reality, he is a human just like you, yet he has defeated all of you. The main reason for this is he follows the discipline of his religion. He is the worshipper of his religion. He is devoted to his religion. This devoted dedication to religion, this is what Muslims call Iman. Their faith's dedication is the main power of their victory. You do not have that much dedication to religion. You are more occupied with your own power, prestige, and kingdom than with religion." At the chief priest's words, a silence descended over the gathering of kings and Maharajas. Seeing this silence, the priest turned his gaze around at everyone and in a thunderous voice said, "Hindustan is the land of Hindus, the land of the gods and goddesses. This is not the land of Allah Akbar. This is the land of Hare Krishna, Hare Hari, Mahadev. But even if it is the land of the gods and goddesses, what kind of dishonor of the gods and goddesses is being carried out in this land? You can clearly see. This earth is crying out, but the one Muslim who is adjudicating over it cannot even tolerate it. If you cannot hear this earth's cry, cannot understand it, then our future descendants and new generation will become slaves of the Muslims, and the flute of Sri Krishna will forever fall silent. Therefore, the future generations and coming descendants must be protected from this curse. Remember, our forefathers were able to uproot the sapling of Islam planted by Muhammad bin Qasim from Hindustan, but that sapling had turned into a strong tree. Chandragupta and Ashoka had spread the roots of that tree planted by bin Qasim throughout this land. But our great pundits and sages in their hearts, taking rosary beads in the name of God, with unlimited courage and skill, were able to silence the call to prayer spreading across India. The sin whose punishment you are all enduring. If you all consider Sultan Mahmud's war as an attack on the kingdom by a robber, you must abandon this wrong belief. You must understand, this war is not a fight between two ruling groups. This war is a fight between two religions. In this fight of two religions and two faiths, Islam has been continuously victorious. Not only has Maharaja Bhimpal been defeated, here the defeat of Hinduism has occurred. The defeat has fallen on the believers of gods, goddesses, and God. Thousands of mullahs and imams have been dispersed across the entire area of Kalanjara. Mosques have been built in villages after villages. If Islam becomes deeply rooted in the hearts of all these people, then no one will ever be able to drive Islam out of this land. Honored Pundit, these words are not new for us, said Bhimpal. Now we should think about how to resist the spread of Islam being sown in the Kalanjara area. I accept that I have been defeated in battle with Sultan Mahmud, and my army has also failed. But that is not the final word. We must try again. For a decisive final battle, the cooperation of all the kings and maharajas of Hindustan is needed. You have accepted defeat. You must also accept that in the future you will face even more defeats, said the priest. If the decisive victory cannot be won in this battle, then time spent preparing will be an absolute waste. The most urgent need at this moment is to prevent how the general public has been made Muslim in the Kalanjara region and the effort to deeply root Islam in their hearts. What can be done? It is no longer possible for you to go there and preach religion, said the Kalanjara king Nandre to the priest, because Mahmud's soldiers had stationed posts there and were conducting day-night patrols. I have heard that Mahmud has given orders. If anyone is found preaching Hinduism, they will be killed on the spot. Outside my fort in Kalanjara, there is no Hindu worship and prayer anywhere. Outside the fort, everywhere the discussion of Islam, talk of Islam. The soldiers patrol day and night. I have heard that Mahmud has apparently given orders. If anyone is found preaching Hinduism, they shall be killed on the spot. Outside my fort in Kalanjara, there is no Hindu worship anywhere now. Outside the fort, everywhere, the discussion of Islam, talk of Islam. All those who speak of Islam and the things about Islam, they fully get the cooperation of Muslim soldiers. All work cannot be done with swords, said the chief vizier of Raja Jaipal. Use sorcery. If they have forced people to accept Islam through the power of force, we can make these people deviate from Islam without using sword power. We can create doubts and suspicions about Islam in the minds of these people. Those who are expert in these matters, let them be called. Let arrangements be made to employ them in this work. The soil, people, and geography of Kalanjara are very suitable for displaying the magic of sorcery. Create terrible fear in the minds of Kalanjara's people, and create supernatural spectacles. Create fear in the minds of the few soldiers Sultan Mahmud has left there too. At the same time, trap them in the snare of physical beauty and sensory indulgence, and make them useless. If we do not start a program of action against the Muslims through secret and invisible activities right now, the Muslims' faith power will grow, and then it will be even more difficult for us to confront them. Yes, human innate weaknesses must be put to use. The chief priest endorsed the vizier's words. Love and fear exist in every human, and it is a natural and inborn weakness. Even a false call of love and affection is difficult for any person to instantly reject. Make the Muslim soldiers drink the poison of love and ruin them, then all the propagators of Islam and new Muslims will be trapped in your net. When the meeting was about to break up without reaching any consensus on the path of political solution, exactly at that moment the chief priest's cunning strategy helped calm and unite everyone. It was a proposal that everyone unanimously supported and felt an urgency to strengthen this process. In the final days of 1540 CE, in the conquered areas of South Kashmir, the trickery of Hindu yogi monks and priests began to confuse the Hindu new Muslims who had accepted Islam and to make Muslim soldiers useless. It is said that at that time, the kingdom of Hindu priests extended across all of India. In whichever village some supernatural event was witnessed by anyone, fear-filled stories were spreading in those villages carried on the wind. The rumors were so heavy, from such and such village fire is erupting from the mountain, lightning is flashing in a cloudless sky, in such and such village a beautiful ghost has blocked the path of travelers. Hearing such stories from others, the souls of people were shaking with fear. Fear at one point turned into social panic. Even rumors spread that the people of the Ghazni forces were catching and slaughtering and eating people. The story of Sultan Mahmud's military post commander Jubar's deputy sinking into the ground was mortally terrifying. It was necessary to inform Sawayag of this terrifying news, because Sawayag was the regional administrator of the Kalanjara area. All small military posts were under him. Upon grasping the gravity of the event, a soldier and an imam who came to inform the regional commander Sawayag quickly reached the regional headquarters at Tilauyugir. Tilauyugir was then the location of the regional headquarters and Commander Sawayag. After Sawayag learned of the matter, he immediately set off with the newsbearers toward Kalanjara. With military commander Sawayag were a few of his bodyguards. Along with them a few mules and camel caravans joined to carry equipment and rations. 2 horseback travelers were walking ahead of their caravan. From their appearance they seemed to be ordinary travelers. The 2 horseback travelers had been walking ahead of Sawayag's caravan. When the imam and news-bearing soldier were bringing news from Kalanjara to Tilauyugir, they had no opportunity to notice that these 2 horseback travelers were following them. When the imam and news-bearing soldier had entered Balnath, the horseback travelers had gone somewhere. Now when Sawayag set off toward Kalanjara with the soldier and imam, they started walking ahead of them again. Sawayag needed no guide, because the imam and the news-bearing soldier knew the route. The caravan was advancing at an ordinary pace. Rocky mountain ground, grassy beds, ups and downs of hills were being left behind them. They could see the peaks of Kashmir's snow-covered mountains. The imam told Commander Sawayag that snow-capped high mountain over there, the residential settlement area at its foothills, is the most beautiful in this area, and the beauty of the inhabitants there is proverbially famous throughout India. When the caravan reached the hilly mountainous area, night had fallen. They decided to advance a little distance even through the night without stopping. After advancing a little, the caravan halted for rest. It was time for a quick stop. The next day, when the caravan was getting ready to set off, suddenly a horse neighed loudly and broke free of its reins and ran away. It was a guard's horse. Before the rider could sit on the horse's back, the horse bolted out of unknown fright. Everyone saw a 3 to 3.5 foot long snake crawling on the grass. The area was covered with dense green grass. Here and there small shrubs flowered thickly. Nature seemed to have deliberately decorated the location with colorful trees and plants in a wondrous way. Small hills and between high and low pits and gorges, level ground from time to time, it was like a beautiful monument made by a skilled sculptor. Seeing the snake, the camels and horses loaded with supplies and rations bolted. Seeing the horses and mules running, everyone chased behind them to catch them. Chased, but no one had the chance to kill the snake. The location was such that it was very difficult to guess where the horses and mules had run off to with their cargo. It was difficult to bring any animal that had fled in fear of the snake. When everyone went behind the hills chasing the horses and lost sight of them, right at this moment 2 people arrived unexpectedly from behind the hill. The snake was still crawling slowly on the grass. One of them came and pushed the snake a little to the side, put it inside a bag, closed the bag's mouth, and tied the bag to a horse's saddle. Another horse was standing there. The snake catcher mounted one horse and grabbing the other horse's rein rode off in the opposite direction. After a while his companion also came and mounted the other horse. Slowly both went beyond the range of sight. That whole day Sawayag's caravan spent chasing horses and rations carrying mules. Suddenly one of the 2 newly arrived people told the other, "Go forward, these won't come back." "They might come back, but we need to keep an eye on them," said the other person. In the last watch of the day, Sawayag's small caravan, half mounted and half on foot, started advancing. After much effort they managed to catch 3 or 4 horses and 2 rations carrying mules and 1 camel. Sawayag was a firm-willed commander. No obstacle could divert him from his objective. He told the caravan companions, whoever is tired of walking should mount. I will now walk from here. These snakes of Hindustan cannot foil our mission. By this point they had reached the mountainous area. On one side a huge mountain, and on the other side the slope of mountains extended far. Right after, their path was turning. Sometimes they had to cross between two mountains. The further they advanced, the more the cold was increasing. The biting cold wind. Of course the location was such that, even without food supplies, they would not die of hunger or thirst. The area had plenty of water. Mountain waterfalls flowed down crystal-clear water at every location. Various types of fruit trees had exotic fruit hanging. Whatever few animals they had with them had no shortage of food. The area was full of green grass suitable for the animals to eat. They spent the night in such a place. On the slope of a mountain they pitched their tent for the night's rest. Most of the time passed talking about the area's natural beauty. A few animals were tied next to their tent. In the morning saddles were being strapped on the horses for the journey to resume and the caravan started moving. Caravan leader Sawayag was advancing on foot, while keeping others mounted. He had Commander Imam Sahib mounted on a horse. Since the group leader was setting off on foot, Sawayag's guards were also walking on foot. Suddenly Imam Sahib's horse began jumping around. Those experienced with horses know the meaning of such horse behavior. Seeing the horse's condition, Sawayag said to the Imam, "Quickly jump down from the horse's back." As soon as Imam Sahib jumped from the horse's back, the horse neighed shrilly and bolted. Immediately other horses also became uncontrollable and started neighing. Suddenly someone cried out, "Snake! Snake!" This time 2 snakes of the same color and same size were seen. All the horses became uncontrollable and breaking their reins bolted in whichever direction they could. Everyone chased behind to catch the horses. No one thought of killing the snake anymore. 2 horses running on the mountain slope, their back legs slipping, fell into the flowing Jhelum River below. Sawayag's 2 soldiers from the high mountain slope, seeing their 2 most essential travel companions flee in fright and slip into the river and the swift current of the fast-flowing Jhelum, carry them away. There was no chance of the 2 horses rising from the river. The caravan of Sawayag, who had spent the night on the mountain slope, when it set off in the morning, losing the 2 remaining riding horses and disappearing. Setting off from there, after a while, the 2 horseback travellers who had been following came back to that same place. They came and caught the 2 snakes rolling on the grass and putting them inside a bag, tied the snake-filled bag to one of their horses' saddles. "What all strange things, honoured commander? I passed through this same area 2 or 3 days ago, bringing this soldier to you. Then I did not notice any snake. Now it is winter time. In winter, snakes normally stay in burrows. Snakes cannot tolerate cold," the Imam said. "Think about it, Imam Sahib. It seems we have perhaps lost our real path and come by another path. See, has any settlement been spotted? Losing the way in such uninhabited terrain is natural." Commander Sawayag said, addressing the Imam. Commander Sawayag's morale was still high. He decided to take the caravan forward on foot. He was motivating everyone to reach the target on foot. Sawayag's strong conviction made it clear Imam Sahib was perhaps taking the caravan in the wrong direction, having lost the real path. Moving along, before evening they saw 2 horseback travellers at a bend in the path. The 2 horseback travellers came near and got down from the horse and, kneeling at the roadside, joined their hands. Sawayag went over to them and stood. Both of them bowed their heads and paid respects to Sawayag. Sawayag said, addressing Imam Sahib, "Please understand their language, question them and ask about the path from them." Imam Sahib asked the 2 people to get up. At the Imam's words, they got up, but one joined his hands like a beggar and said, "We are your slaves. You are Muslims. We have accepted your religion." Imam Sahib asked them about their destination, saying, "Are we going on the right path?" "No, you've lost the way," one person said. "We have seen you from far away. We are amazed. What are you doing travelling this path with your life?" We consider this area to be the city of death. Not even a ferocious beast like a tiger comes to this area. This is snake territory. On this path you will see snakes hanging on the branch of every tree at every step. You leave this path and go by another path. Having said this, he started talking about that route. But this path was very complicated. There were frequent bends to take. Going on this path, there was the risk of losing the way again and again. For this reason, we are going with you. Imam Sahib conveyed the traveller's statement to Sawayag. Sawayag gave orders to take them along. He also said, "These people showed us the way to reach our destination. For this work, we will give them appropriate wages." The two visiting horseback travellers got the duty of guides for Sawayag's caravan. Walking along, Sawayag asked through Imam Sahib, wanting to know from the guides, "Do you know about the remarkable events of this area?" In reply, they said, "We have in fact fled from that very place. We have come this side, leaving the area along with wives and children out of fear." One of them replied, "Have you seen fire erupting from any mountain? We live far away. We have not directly seen fire, but we have seen a flame of fire from far away. It seemed as if the sky was on fire. We've also seen lightning flashing in the sky at night. We've also heard such a voice, 'Let no one abandon the religion of their forefathers.' That man said, 'Have you also abandoned the religion of your forefathers and accepted Islam?' Yes, indeed, we believe Islam is the true religion. That is why we have come away from there. We will not abandon your religion under any circumstances." Both the guides, one after another, described those events to Sawayag in even more frightening form than what the Imam, a news-bearing soldier, had described. Both of them had shown frightened expressions in their speech. Imam Sahib and Sawayag were reassuring them, "There is nothing to be afraid of in all this. You will face no harm." The two guide travellers, like obedient servants, were walking ahead, showing the caravan the path. In South Kashmir there was a settlement called Deokot. 25 houses built of cedar and pine wood made up Deokot village. All the village inhabitants were Hindu. In this village there was also a small temple built of cedar wood. Very close to the temple was a small military post of the Ghaznavi forces. At the post there were about 30 soldiers. Azmir was the name of this small military post's commander. Azmir was an inhabitant of Multan. Once Azmir was a person of the Karmathian community. When Sultan Mahmud captured Multan and unveiled the irreligiousness of the Karmathians, many Karmathians accepted Islam and took the initiation of Sunni Muslim faith. Azmir was one of those Karmathians. One day, Commander Azmir was routinely patrolling the village with companions aimed at the military post. On Sultan Mahmud's orders, the temple in that village had been removed and a mosque built. An imam had been appointed in the mosque. The imam would teach the inhabitants of that place Quran Hadith education and teach the people the methods and manner of Islamic worship. The people of this village too were terrified by the strange events, because they had also seen fire burning in the neighboring mountains and had seen the sky lit up by lightning light at night. One night when such lightning was flashing, Imam Sahib went outside the house and saw 3 dishevelled women. It was then a strong wind. The wind was blowing the dishevelled young women's hair, covering their faces. The young women were standing on that mountain slope. The night was dark. Light was radiating from the opposite mountain. In that light, dimly visible, were the young women standing on the mountain slope. Incidentally, Imam Sahib had come outside the house exactly at this time. He saw, after a short while, the light spread and the mountain light went out. After a while again scattered light from the same location. But later the young women were no longer to be seen there. The next day Imam Sahib went to the post and told Commander Azmir about the previous night's scene. Imam Sahib told Azmir, "The village people are saying that if Islam were really the Creator's religion, then surely Imam Sahib would show them some such miraculous thing. The village people are also saying that trouble has descended on them because they have converted from their religion. For this reason they must be punished, and so heavenly creatures have descended to earth to punish them." Azmir went to the village trying to remove the inhabitants' fear. But that did not remove the inhabitants' fear. Rather, he himself became a little confused, because he was not a scholar. He had no knowledge about any unassailable proof evidence of the true creed and belief of Islam. He only knew the instruction that if anyone says anything against Islam, their neck must be cut. Going around the village, Azmir went to the mosque and told the Imam, "I am a soldier, and you are a scholar. What explanation does your knowledge give for these events? Give the people one explanation about this. Otherwise our soldiers too will abandon Islam. I can fight with swords, I can govern people, I can breach the wall of any impregnable fort. But in matters of religion I am an absolute ignorant and naive person. For guarding you and Islam's creed belief I have been stationed here. The Sultan has ordered that arrangements should be made to win people's hearts. But here such events have occurred that they have created various doubts and suspicions about Islam in people's minds. Honored Imam, tell me something about this, otherwise God forbid I myself may go astray in the end." In reality, to give practically applicable explanations of these strange events, the Imam, who was inexperienced with Islam's creed belief, and the Hindus' hard conspiracies, did not have the wisdom. So without giving any reassuring words, with a commander-like attitude he warned and threatened the villagers with the fear of punishment, and returned to his post. Azmir himself became a victim of confusion. The people had said in the darkness of night, Azmir himself sitting alone started hearing that very voice, "If Islam is truly the Creator's religion, then show some such miraculous thing as the opposite of these events." Azmir's military post's location was also on a mountain slope. A 2-story house built of wood had been made into a post. At night, with an anxious mind, Commander Azmir had opened the second-floor window and was looking outside. The night was as bitterly cold as it was pitch dark. Not a single thing could be seen at 10 hand-lengths distance. The natural trees and plants of Kashmir with the fragrance of various unnamed flowers, an enchanting, intoxicating environment, captivating all around from the fragrance of unknown flowers. Azmir was a dedicated Muslim, but here he came face to face with a difficult test of Islam. Azmir firmly believed the religious belief of Hindus was absolutely a false religious belief. Idol worship was altogether an act of unbelief, but that Islam was the true religion. In proving this matter to doubting new Muslim Azmir, there was no ingredient having the appearance of proof. He could not say forcefully, "Islam is the truth." In the solitude of this dark night, deep in thought, suddenly a ray of light from a far mountain slope broke the sequence. Even in the pitch-dark night, the flash of the light ray was quite intense. The light flashed several times and went out again, and then scattered light from the same place. Seeing this scene, Commander Azmir's hair stood on end. He thought, in the morning the village's mouths would report, at night they saw fire burning on the village mountain, or would say at night such and such mountain had emitted fire. Helpless from the situation, Commander Azmir fell down in prostration and with tear-filled throat submitted to Allah's court. "O my Lord, protect the honor of your holy name. Protect the purity and dignity of your beloved religion. Islam, show the light of my faith. Give me the power so that I can unravel the mystery of these strange fires. Give me this capability." When the dawn light at the end of the night announced the news of day, even then the previous night's events were weighing like a stone on Commander Azmir's mind. He felt the obligation. The mystery of these supernatural events must be uncovered, and the purity of his religion must be maintained. But he had no knowledge or wisdom to uncover the mystery of these supernatural events. When the sun had risen quite high, he mounted a horse and went out alone. He secretly stood behind the villagers' houses and tried to listen to their conversations. At that time, this area of Kashmir was full of dense trees. Wild, fierce animals were often seen roaming around in the dense jungle. Occasionally deer were also seen. Azmir always carried bow and arrow with him. He also always had a spear with him. Going from the post, he went quite far into a jungle area. Alongside the jungle flowed a mountain stream. Suddenly the sound of women's laughter reached his ears. Hiding very carefully behind a tree, he looked toward the river. His gaze fell on three beautiful young women bathing in the river and laughing. From waist upward, they were completely bare. Though in the lower region there was some cloth, it was so thin that even the body hair could be clearly seen from a distance. The young women's heads were bare. Their hair was flowing to their knees. Asmir was not astonished by the young women's supernatural beauty, because Allah the Almighty had by nature made this area the most beautiful in the world. All the people here were beautiful. What astonished Asmir was, there was no human settlement anywhere near here. No one came from far settlements to bathe here. Besides, there was no reason to assume the nearby village inhabitants from seeing the young women beautiful in any way. Their beauty could not be compared at all with the young women of the surrounding villages. There was no occasion to call them village girls either. Asmir's mind thought, there is a folk tradition about this area, that many people reportedly see beautiful women on mountain slopes or in deserted places. In people's words, they were perhaps ghost fairies or heavenly jinn fairies. Commander Asmir was speechless and mesmerized looking at the young women. Suddenly one young woman cried out in one direction and ran. At the same moment another young woman also ran away. The third young woman was sitting by the river bank. She got up to run and fell into the river. The water there was knee-deep. Right at that moment a huge wild boar came forward growling, advancing toward the water. The young woman stood up straight from the water, and as soon as she saw the terrifying tusked wild boar, crying out again, she fell back into the water. The huge-bodied wild boar now entered the water, and started advancing toward the young woman to make her its prey. It became clear to Asmir, this young woman was no ghost fairy or jinn fairy. She was absolutely a mortal human. Commander pulled on the horse's reins and gave his heels. The horse galloped forward quickly. Commander Asmir took his spear in his right hand and took aim. It had to be a targeted strike, because the wild boar was advancing, jumping and leaping, twisting and turning, growling fiercely to make the young woman its prey. With the young woman about to be caught, Commander Asmir threw the spear at the boar with tremendous force. The spear flew like an arrow and lodged completely at the boar's root. With a ferocious cry, the boar leapt up and fell into the water. The wild boar rose from the water again, turned round a few times and fell into the water again. Asmir in one leap dismounted from the horse's back and ran to the river to pull up the young woman. The tusked wild boar was still fallen in the water, slowly rolling around and thrashing its legs. The young woman was unconscious. He did not know where her companion young women had fled to. Asmir brought the unconscious young woman close, loaded her on the horse, and covering the young woman's bare body with clothes from the river bank, set off toward the post. He was trying to save the unconscious young woman and thinking inwardly, if the identity of these young women can be uncovered, perhaps it will be possible to unravel many hidden secrets. Asmir could not find the bottom of it. Where had these three beautiful young women come from? And where had her companion young women gone? Why were they swimming in the river in this isolated jungle in the middle? Were they not thinking even once that at any time some fierce animal could come from inside the jungle and be a danger to them? Before any sky-high thinking could occur, Asmir had arrived at the post with the unconscious young woman. After reaching the military post, the young woman called out in a faint voice. The young woman was herself trying to rise from lying down. Commander Asmir helped her dismount from the horse. The young woman's consciousness returned, but seeing herself in the strange military post compared to seeing the boar, an even more frightened look appeared in her eyes and face. Being excessively frightened, her head began spinning. Asmir spoke to her in the local language and the young woman understood. Asmir told her to properly arrange her clothing. "Is it you who saved me from the jungle's tusked boar's clutches?" the young woman said in a muffled voice, addressing Asmir. "If I had not been there, and if I had not had the spear in my hand, it would have been difficult for you to save your life. By now your wounded body, battered by the boar, would have floated away in the river's current. I have killed that ferocious boar. Now you have no more fear. There is no danger. You are safe. Wherever you want to go, you will be safely sent there," Commander Asmir said, in order to reassure the frightened young woman. For changing clothes, the young woman went to another empty room. Asmir had been watching the young woman until now. Can a human be so beautiful? It was as if even imagination would lose. Having changed her clothes, the young woman came back and asked Asmir, "Now how should I be treated?" "What you are afraid of. If I had wanted to do that, I could have done it right there at the river bank," said Asmir. "I have covered your completely bare body with clothing. I have not come here with any ill intent. The urgency of saving your life forced me to bring you here. Now tell me, where do you want to go?" "Wherever you want to go. I will leave you there." "I have understood. You are not a person of this area. Your speech does not sound like this area. Your conduct also does not match with the people of this region. Besides, you are not the son of some poor village father either. If I do not answer any of your questions, then what treatment will I receive?" "I will not interrogate you at all. I will keep you here like a sacred trust," said Asmir. The young woman laughed with a hiccup-like laughter. Suddenly she started talking with Asmir in such a way, as if Asmir was someone she had known for many days. She was willingly surrendering herself to Asmir. Seeing this bewildering and willingly surrendering attitude of the young woman, Asmir said, "I am a Muslim. I cannot be a traitor to my sultan and my duty. Do not consider me a stone in terms of emotion." The young woman applied a few more techniques to entrap Asmir in her snare, but in the end she understood. Asmir was truly a stone. Finally, the young woman said to Asmir, "You have saved my life. I had thought you were not that kind of person. Now my duty is to inform you of my true situation. After this you can do whatever you wish. I am one of those ghost fairies who become visible to ordinary people in the guise of a beautiful young woman. But I am not a ghost fairy. I am a human. The two other young women who are with me, they are also human. Kalanjara Fort is our address, our temporary address from where you lifted me. It is on the mountain a little distance from there. Today night it was our duty to flash lightning from the opposite side mountain and scatter beams of light. What is actually the mystery of the lightning flashing? If you wish, you can have those people caught. Of course, the problem is, by now they have perhaps started searching for me. If they cannot rescue me alive or dead, there is a risk of their secret being exposed. They may leave this place. Are you thinking of having them caught? I will leave you dropped off at the place from where I lifted you, and will hide watching. They will likely come searching for you. Then I will catch them," said Asmir. "If you try to deceive me, remember, you will always remain within the range of my arrow's target. I will not deceive you. You have saved my life. I will repay you for this." Commander Asmir took the young woman back to the place from where he had brought her. The wild boar killed by Asmir's spear was lying dead right there. The current being shallow, the stream could not float it away. The young woman, getting down from the riverbank, started moving upstream and looking around, searching for her people. After a while, the young woman saw two men on the opposite bank of the river. They called the young woman. The young woman beckoned them with a hand gesture to come to this side. Both of them crossed knee-deep mountain river water, and coming to this side asked the young woman, "Where have you come from? Where were you until now?" While they were standing talking with each other, Asmir came out from behind the dense thicket of the riverbank, along with 4 soldier companions. The young woman's 2 familiar men became frightened on seeing Asmir. Asmir had his bow and arrow drawn and ready. He said in a threatening voice, "Do not try to flee. Stand exactly where you are." Seeing Asmir's threat and his armed companions, the young woman's group's men looked around in fright in all directions. Meanwhile, Asmir's companions had surrounded them. "Take them to our headquarters," Asmir commanded the 2 men in the voice of an order. They showed such behavior that they had not understood anything of Asmir's words and tried to cleverly avoid the instruction. But Asmir told them, "If any deception or trickery is taken recourse to, you will be killed. If you want to live, go to our headquarters as per my instruction. Since all their conspiracies were exposed before Aasimar, the two men began scolding and insulting the young woman in their regional language. "Shameless woman, you have exposed everything about us." Without responding to their words, Aasimar drew his sword and urgently said, "If you want to live, go ahead and lead us." Following Aazimar's instructions, going ahead showing the path, the two men went deeper into the dense jungle. After a while, the two men started climbing toward the top of a hill. The area covered in dense trees and vines. No human foot had ever trodden in this place. After climbing the mountain slope for a long time, they still could not reach the mountain top. Coming quite high up, it was seen. This location was like a mountain fortress. A hut had been built here from dry wood. Near the hut was a huge pile of dry wood. Two young women came out from the hut, hearing the conversation of the people outside. Aasimar had seen both young women bathing in the river. These women were frightened, seeing the soldiers surrounding their people outside. Commander Aasimar peeked inside the hut and saw, inside the hut was a large wooden-framed, crystal-clear mirror. There was also something even more transparent than a mirror, a large sheet of glass. "What are these?" Aasimar asked the two men. "These are nothing. We just came here casually." Seeing the two men making excuses, Aasimar looked toward the young woman rescued from the wild boar's attack. This young woman had been grateful for Aasimar saving her life earlier, and at the same time, even after being alone with him, he had not behaved brutally with her, but had kept her in safety as a pure trust. She had promised him she would reveal all their secrets to him. She had fulfilled the promise given quite substantially already. To fulfill the remainder, the young woman said to the companion men, "Making excuses is futile now, because these people have come to know much about us." They took Commander Aasimar to the mountain peak. Going to the mountain top, looking around, Aasimar saw through the trees his post was visible. Through the gaps in the trees, the location of the riverbank where he had gone could also be dimly seen. Aasimar was informed. The dry wood pile visible there, at night. A fire is lit in this dry woodpile on this mountain. This fire is kept hidden from the valley dwellers' view behind the mountain. After that, this large mirror is set up on the level ground of the mountain where they were standing. Oil is poured on the burning fire, which makes the flame rise very high. The flash of the burning fire falls on the mirror. The mirror should then be turned 2 or 3 times toward the military post and village direction. The flash of the burning fire reflected in the mirror reflects upon the military post and village. Due to the mirror being turned very quickly, the reflected light flash appears to uninformed people as lightning flash. Understanding the essence of their words was not at all difficult for Aasimar. Because the young woman had earlier informed him, tonight their plan was to flash lightning over the village and to light a fire on the mountain. The matter of flashing lightning from another mountain a few days ago had also now become clear to Aasimar. "This is a game of intelligence," said one of the two men. "If the fire's light is reflected in this mirror in the darkness of night, it creates a flash of light, and the people living in the village below the mountain, seeing the reflected light, think it is sky lightning. Even people who know about the mountain's height cannot think this flash of light has come from the mountain top, and in the daytime our trained people propagate various types of supernatural stories among the village people, centered on the night's light flash. And these stories spread like wind among the people, combining imagination and unreality, mixing all the supernatural ghost stories. Our people conduct propaganda among the common people, centered on various superstitions and supernatural beliefs prevalent among them. Since you have abandoned the religion of the gods and goddesses, the gods have become angry at you. If you do not come back to your own religion, ghosts will descend and you will fall into various calamities. You must repent and return to your original religion and worship the gods and goddesses more to please them. The people in deserted places whom people saw as beautiful naked fairies and took to be ghost fairies or fairies. Those 3 young women were the so-called fairies. They are not inhabitants of this area. They are specially trained young women from the royal palaces of Lahore and Bathinda. Allah the Almighty had accepted Commander Azmir's tearful prayer. He was now seeing the light of his faith with his own eyes. The trickery of these yogis beneath all the strange and sky-born rumor stories had become clear to him. Commander Azmir now felt the need to inform the confused new Muslim villagers of this matter. Azmir caught the 2 yogi men and 3 young women and brought them to the military post and placed them under strict guard. At the same time asked them in which other locations were their people conducting such activities. Meanwhile, Commander Sawayag's caravan was advancing on the path shown by the 2 guides. Imam Sahib said a few times anxiously, "What is this? Why is it taking so long? We were supposed to reach our destination today." In reply, the 2 guides explained to the Imam, due to excessive security they were advancing on a longer path, because this was the safest and easiest path. In reality, the path taken by the guides was not at all easy. The guides were confusing the caravan and taking them on an unknown, unfamiliar and long path. One night the caravan halted at a place to rest. Then the 2 guides informed the caravan leader Sawayag tomorrow they would reach before noon. Without stopping, they were advancing on the difficult path, and so everyone in the caravan was very exhausted. Crossing the difficult path on foot, as a result everyone in the caravan was very exhausted. After halting for the break, eating and drinking a little and stretching out, everyone fell into the embrace of sleep. When morning came, both guides disappeared. Searching for them, they could not be found anywhere, and searching was not easy. High mountains on all sides, dense thicket-covered mountains, nothing could be seen except trees and plants. They did not know where they had come from, which direction they needed to go. They knew nothing at all. The path by which they had come, they knew no other path to return that way. Alas, we have become victims of Hindu conspiracy. They knew you were telling various stories about the natural beauty of this area. They took advantage of that very opportunity, Sawayag said, addressing the Imam. When we were coming past the Bournemouth fort, I had seen 2 horseback travellers from a distance. I had thought they might be some travellers. Who knows whether they were those travellers, said one soldier. When we first saw the snake, I had seen them then, but their faces were not visible, said another soldier. Whether your seen people are these or someone else, what does it matter, said Sawayag. The real matter is, we have fallen victim to a terrible deception. Now think about how to get out from here. And do one more thing. Whatever food we have in our packs, throw it all away. They may have mixed poison in it. On the commander's orders, whatever food there was, all of it was thrown away with the poison. Now began the journey on an unknown, unfamiliar path, a difficult venture. Wandering here and there, the whole day was spent. The night was somehow spent, but no one found rest due to the extreme cold. The next day, too, passed wandering on unknown, unfamiliar paths. On the night of the next day, when Sawayag's caravan was searching for a slightly warm spot to save themselves from the cold, exactly at that moment, the 2 deceiver, Hindu guidemen sitting in the Lohakote fort were reporting on their activities to the fort commander, how they had led Sawayag's caravan into an unknown mountainous area and left them there. Getting out of there for them was not an easy matter either. "Why did you not kill them?" the fort commander said with regret. "Sultan Mahmud does not appoint ordinary people to the position of regional commander. You had got a very valuable catch in hand. I am very pleased with your work. But I would have been even more pleased if you had brought their heads with you. We had been instructed from Kalanjara, no Muslim soldier should be killed by anyone. We do not know why this instruction was given, otherwise we could very easily have mixed poison in their food. The Maharaja of Kalanjara has perhaps deliberately said this. He wants to give this message to Sultan Mahmud. According to the treaty, his soldiers are safe here. But if they themselves wander and die in unknown places, what can we do about that?" And indeed that was what was happening. Who was protecting Sawayag from going toward death, wandering in unknown paths with his caravan? They themselves had gone there. For 2 whole days they could not find any sign of any path, could not find any sign of any human settlement. In the far distance there was no sign of human presence visible to their eyes. In this foodless, isolated jungle, they often saw pairs of mountain tigers in front of their eyes. The roar of lions also reached their ears. This earth of such beauty and enchanting magic had now become a city of death for them. The Hindu conspirators had made a very effective move. Sawayag was the regional military head of this area. In the absence of the chief commander, the main obstacle in conducting their conspiracies to bring the new Muslims back to Hinduism had been removed. In Sawayag's absence, that work could proceed smoothly. The Hindu yogi monks and priests were very skilled and adept in the matter of conspiracy and intrigue. In the temples, the priests began telling the worshippers the cow's excrement is as sacred, the Muslims are just as impure. Killing Muslims and eliminating Islam as the chief religious duty. The temple priests declared that killing a Muslim was the greatest virtuous act of religion. The priests of today and the policy and ideals of the Hindu leaders of New India. There is no difference. Even today, all Hindus hold a united and consistent view on the matter of making India free of Muslims. One day in 1504 CE, Raja Jaipal was sitting in the Kalanjara fort and listening to the operation reports of his saboteur group. Raja Jaipal had woven the conspiracy net of confusing the new Muslims of the conquered territories and bringing them back to Hinduism and ousting the Muslim rulers through saboteurs. But that conspiracy net had been caught by Muslim soldiers and rulers. They were presenting sorcery and beautiful women as ghost fairies to the uneducated village people, as signs of the wrath of the gods and goddesses, and creating artificial light from mountain tops to produce lightning. The saboteur group's leader was saying, "Our 2 trained male group members and 3 teenage girls have been caught by Muslim soldiers with all their equipment and taken to the villages showing everything people have been told." These were the so-called sky-born frightening ghost fairies, and these supplies were the ingredients of sky lightning. From the prisoners caught by Commander Azmir, giving them the promise of their lives being spared and punishment-free release, the conspirator group's other members' addresses and identities were also learned. Using the young woman as a means, just as Azmir caught the men and other companions, by the same technique he was able to catch the other conspirators as well. One day Azmir gathered some village people together and had the conspirator group stand before them and made them say everything that had been propagated to them so far in the name of the gods and goddesses was all mere rumor, baseless and false. Many of the village people recognized the wrongdoers. The conspirators revealed their true identities to the village people. After evening, Azmir made his conspirators flash lightning for the last time and made the young women appear as ghost fairies and show themselves and reveal their true identities to the village people. After evening, using Azmir's conspirators, making them flash lightning for the last time and making the young women appear as ghost fairies, he made them show themselves. When Maharaja Nandre saw his conspiracy had failed, he then gave orders to kill all the imams and teachers who were teaching the new Muslim Islam and teaching them worship, and to hide the bodies in such a way that no trace could be found. He also gave orders to Raja Nandre to separately isolate and kill 1 or 2 soldiers from the camps where Ghazni forces were stationed and hide their bodies. One night, Azmir was sitting alone in a room of his camp. Right beside him in a room, the conspirator men and young women were held under guard. Azmir had also set up guard duty in front of their room. He had also told the prisoners tomorrow their group's men would be sent to Bolnath. The regional commander Sawayag would decide their fate, and the young women would be sent to Kalanjara under military guard. In the middle of the night, a soldier came and informed Commander Azmir, "One of the prisoner young women wants to speak with him." Commander Azmir sent for the young woman. It was the same young woman whom he had rescued from the river. "Honored Commander, will you not call me to you tonight? I at least have the desire to spend tonight near you," the young woman said. Azmir smiled at the young woman's words. He said, "I feel you are extraordinarily beautiful. By Allah, I have not seen a second woman as beautiful as you in my life. I am not that I do not understand your astonishment. It is not that a young man like me, after spending so long without a woman's company, on getting a beautiful woman like you in hand, would not be attracted even slightly. The fact that you are astonished about me is because they expect you are attracted to my beauty. But if you were a Muslim like me, if you had as heavy a duty placed on you as on me, if you were able to grasp the significance of faith, then the matter would not seem so unnatural to you. Your gaze is toward the human body. This is your religious teaching. And our gaze is toward the soul. Our religious faith revolves around the soul. This is the teaching of our religion. If I became a Muslim to get your love, even if the king cobra's venom is extracted, it remains a king cobra. Even if you make it drink honey, venom will be produced in its body, and at one point it will strike exactly like a cobra. Because that is its religion. I have not come here to play the game of love and marriage and frolic with beautiful women. I have not the slightest attraction toward this extraordinary beauty of yours and your tempting physical figure. This is the strength of my faith. For this reason my gaze does not fall on my own youth, just as it does not feel attraction toward the physical figure of a beauty like you. Listen, beautiful woman. My religion has taught me, if any helpless woman of the enemy side is taken prisoner, then taking advantage of their helplessness and enjoying their beauty is a great sin. Keep female prisoners beyond the limits of your sight. Hearing Asmir's words, the young woman's eyes filled with water. She came and sat beside Asmir in the post. Resting one hand on Asmir's shoulder, the young woman sat pressed against his body in such a way that her loose hair was touching Asmir's nose and face. In a bewildered voice, the young woman told Asmir, "You have saved me from the wild boar's attack. Now you are about to free me and send me to my address with full safety. So many days we three young women spent completely at your will and mercy. Yet you were not attracted to us, let alone our beauty. You did not even look at our youth deeply. You remained as stone." The young woman fell silent, talking. At one point she held Asmir's face in both hands and turned it toward her. The feeling of affection, reverence, and love appeared in the young woman's eyes and face as a plea to Asmir. Suddenly the young woman said, "I smell fresh blood. It seems you are attacked by some deep pain. Asmir, are you wounded?" Asmir slowly raised his left hand. His hand had a sharp dagger. The tip of the dagger was blood-stained. The young woman was sitting on his right side. She could not see when she pressed her body against Asmir's and tried to ignite the fire of desire in his body and tried to lure him from his sacred duty. To save himself from this temptation, Asmir had very carefully drawn his waist-guarding dagger from its scabbard and slowly pressed it against the top of his foot below the ankle. Seeing the blood-stained blade, the young woman stood up from sitting and faced Asmir. At that moment, Asmir's gaze fell on the wound on his own foot. Blood was dripping from there. Astonished, the young woman stared there for a while. There is nothing astonishing in this beautiful woman. I am a human, not an angel. I am a completely capable young man. The touch of your body and the shadow of your silken hair had pushed me away from my sacred duty. I had only the Sultan's service. I also have a duty to answer for at Allah's court. On this earth, the conflict between a sultan and maharajas is not about kingdom or wealth. It is the conflict between truth and justice, and falsehood and injustice. I cannot drown my lifelong cherished dream and ideal for a moment of temporary pleasure. I do not wish to create any pressure in my mind by ignoring your extraordinary beauty and your surrendered submission. Therefore, to avert my gaze from you, I have pressed the dagger against my own foot. Very well. You go to your room now." The young woman pulled one of Asmir's hands toward her, touched his eyes, and kissed them, then went to her room. The next morning, mounting 3 young women on 3 horses with 10 horseback companions, Commander Asmir set out on the road to Kalanjara. Set off, the young women kept coming close to Asmir's horse again and again, but Asmir gave them nothing but a smile as gift, spoke no words, Past midnight, the caravan reached in front of the main gate of the Kalanjara fort. Asmi was eager to hand over the young women near the fort and return with companions. The young woman who had surrendered herself in gratitude for saving her life came forward and stood in Asmir's path and in a humble voice said, "I could give you no repayment for your kindness. I had nothing more than my body to give you. For this reason I will have to carry a sadness all my life. I seek no repayment. My lord will give me the best repayment. You go and tell your king, wars are fought on the battlefield. Man to man, wars are never won using women." On the return journey with companions, Asmir's heart was light and free. After committing himself in tearful prayer to Allah's court, Allah had accepted his prayer. He had personally witnessed the light of his faith. At the same time, he had been able to carry out his assigned duty well and beautifully. Meanwhile, Commander Sawayag was distressed wandering around in the labyrinth of unknown mountains. Even after wandering non-stop for 3 to 4 days, they could find no path to reach their destination out of the mountain's encirclement. If there had not been the abundance of suitable fruit trees and drinkable water in this area, it would have been impossible for them to survive this long. The Hindu king of the Loharkot fort was first given the news that the Baunaf fort's Muslim fort commander and Ghazni Sultan's regional administrator, Commander Sawayag, had been wandering in the mountains with an imam and a few soldiers. The Hindu conspirators had misled them and left them in the mountains. Getting out of there was not easy for them. Without delaying even for a moment, the Loharkot fort commander informed Raja Nandre. Raja Nandre, upon hearing this news, immediately gave the order, catch all of them and bring them to the fort. 1 day later, a soldier from a nearby Muslim military post came to Commander Asmir's post and informed him from the message of that post's commander, "I have received news. A military unit from the Kalanjara fort has arrested a small caravan of our forces and is taking them to Kalanjara. I was not able to learn who these Muslim soldiers are and which post soldiers. I am going to rescue them, but my manpower is very low. Please assist me with as much manpower as possible." Upon receiving the news, Asmir himself set out with 10 soldiers hand-picked from his post. The path was difficult and winding. Yet Asmir and companions reached the news-sending post commander's location within 4 to 5 hours. A local inhabitant had given the news to some members of the Ghazni forces that the Kalanjara soldiers had arrested some members. He informed them. The number of soldiers in the Hindu group would not be less than 50 to 60. Asmir and the news-sender commander set out on the rescue mission with 30 soldiers. The news-sender himself was their guide. They did not have to go very far. After advancing for about an hour, crossing a field, they reached a mountainous valley and saw a few Muslim soldiers moving in the Hindu forces' encirclement. From far away they were able to recognize Commander Sawayag. The other soldiers were also known to them. Going close, Asmir shouted at the Hindus, "Release the prisoners here and leave." Without giving any verbal reply to Asmir's threat, the Hindus got ready for combat. Immediately led by Asmir, the companions fell upon the Hindus. All the captured Sawayag companions' Hindu captors had made them walk on foot. A fierce struggle began between the two sides. Within moments, Asmir's group was able to free the prisoners. There were casualties on both sides. At one point the Hindu forces fled. Freed from captivity, Sawayag and his companions mounted the horses of the fallen fighters and set off toward the nearby Muslim military post. But Commander Asmir was not seen among this group. Commander Asmir's horse had been wounded and moved far away from the battlefield. Asmir was trying to bring the horse back to the post without letting it go. But 7 or 8 Hindu soldiers came upon him after fleeing and surrounded Asmir. Since the horse was weakened, it was not possible for him to flee. Confronting so many people alone was also not possible for him. Helplessly, the hapless Asmir had to accept capture. The Hindus tied him on a horse's back and took him to Kalanjara. On the way, more Hindu soldiers joined them. They were also taking 2 Muslim soldiers as prisoners. Within moments the news reached the fort. Several Muslim soldiers had been captured. The news of Muslim soldiers being captured went to the performers and dancers inside the royal palace. The dancer who Asmir had rescued from the wild boar's attack came out immediately. because she had spent quite a few days in the Muslim soldiers' prison. She had witnessed the Muslim soldiers' elevated mentality, religious dedication, sense of duty, and above all, ideal. Now hearing the news of that Ghazni force's soldier being captured by the Hindus, she could not suppress her desire to see them with her own eyes. Due to Commander Asmir's bravery, heart, humanity, and elevated ethics, a seat of reverence and devotion for the entire Ghazni force had been created in that young woman's heart. However much religious pressure there was to show hostility toward Muslims, she could not remove that seat of reverence deep in her heart. So when she came to see the Muslim prisoners with her own eyes, upon seeing Asmir she was startled, and at that moment she decided, whatever is possible, she would do everything to save the person who saved her from the fierce animal's attack. The young woman took the Hindu soldier's commander slightly aside, and in his ear quietly requested that Asmir be released. She told the commander how this Muslim soldier had saved her life, and even after that, though she offered herself, he had not accepted it. The young woman told the commander, if you do this work, I will give you much more reward than expected, and will send him outside the fort in such a way that not even a shadow will come to know. The prisoners had not yet been presented before any official high authority. By then the darkness of evening had fallen thick. The prisoners were to be kept in the prison for then. Through clever and cunning persuasion, the young woman convinced the release of Asmir at the moment of darkness, and taking advantage of the darkness, took Asmir to a dense thicket and tree plant area. After making Asmir sit here, the young woman ran away, and within moments returned with some clothes and a horse. In great haste she dressed Asmir in the clothing of Hindu sages and priests, and tied a special turban on his head, and said to him to mount the horse and advance, and she herself went ahead. The royal dancer going forward said to the duty-responsible officer at the main gate, "My uncle had come to us. Now on an urgent matter he must go to the nearby village. 2 people have died there. After reaching there he would begin the last rites. He has been told from the inner palace to open the gate for him." The guard knew this young woman was the royal palace's dancer. The guard was also aware of the dancer's influence and prestige in the palace. So without any hesitation he opened the gate. Disguised as a priest, Asmir passed through the gate without obstruction. Having sent him out, the gate was closed again. Asmir came out from the fort without driving the horse and slowly advanced. Far from the fort he took off the priest-disguised coat, and also threw away the padding stuffed inside the coat to make the belly look fat. Throwing away the special turban from his head too, he rode normally toward the post. Riding the horse continuously, the next day in the afternoon Asmir reached his own post. Commander Sawayag and all his companions who had been captured had freed themselves and taking refuge in Asmir's post, because among all the nearby posts, Asmir's post was the most secure and safe. "Asmir, my friend, where were you these 2 days? From where have you come now?" Commander Sawayag asked, wanting to know upon seeing Asmir return to the post after 2 days. "First hear the urgent matter," said Commander Asmir. "My horse became injured and moved far away from you. My solitude and my horse's injured condition forced me to accept capture. With the help of one person, I have come out of the Kalanjara fort. The situation here is very bad. The king of Kalanjara had woven vast conspiracy and treachery nets against the Muslims here. You are a direct witness of that. By Allah's mercy, those conspiracies have failed. Their attempt to capture you is proof that all the small Hindu kings here are no longer willing to remain as our tributaries. They are secretly making military preparations. I have come to know from the Kalanjara fort 2 or 3 kings' all forces are gathering in the Kalanjara fort. Lahore's Maharaja Bhimpal himself is coming to the Kalanjara fort with a huge number of soldiers. Probably the command of the combined forces will be in Bhimpal's hands. The Maharajas gathering in the Kalanjara fort will send a message to the Sultan refusing to pay tribute. After that, the work of destroying our small posts will begin." "This happening is quite natural," said Commander Sawayag. "Any defeated power can try to take revenge. The Hindus are such a two-faced nation that when they think defeat is inevitable, they fall at your feet and ask for alms for their lives. But if even a little freedom of movement is obtained with a sword, like a venomous snake, they will strike. Our war with the Hindus is not about kingdom or wealth. Throwing them down and making them fall at your feet, begging for their lives like beggars. Then, if in exchange for their freedom they say, hand over all your daughters, wives, and sisters to our hands, they would not feel even a moment of guilt. But the moment they become free of your sword's grip, like a venomous snake, they will strike. Our conflict with the Hindus is not about kingdom or wealth. The only reason for the Hindus' conflict with us is religious belief. This war will continue uninterrupted as long as there is even one Hindu or one Muslim in Hindustan. But now, what is to be seen is when the Hindus attack us. I would request you, sitting idle, waiting to see the Hindus attack, is not appropriate for us. Today, a messenger must be sent to the Ghazni Sultan with this alarming news. Our duty should be not to be complacent about the enemy's strength and capability, because when their attack begins, how will you confront their huge force with a few people? Said Commander Azmir. Sawayag found Azmir's proposal very logical. He immediately made arrangements to send 2 soldiers orally toward Ghazni. They were told, on the way, take as much rest as possible and change horses from every post if necessary. The messenger reached Ghazni earlier than expected. Sultan Mahmud had been able to make all the soldiers of his forces understand, in a few minutes' delay, in many cases the reason for the entire force's defeat could lie. Due to the Sultan's this teaching, the message-bearer arrived in Ghazni faster than expected. When the messenger was informing the Sultan about Kashmir's situation, his tongue was moving but his head was swaying and his eyes were closing with pain. His body had collapsed with exhaustion from hunger, thirst, and non-stop fatigue. Regarding this, English history researcher Sir Henry Howarth, in an article written in 1898, citing historical Ibn Isfahndiyar, writes, upon hearing the news of Kashmir's unrest and Commander Sawayag's capture and Raja Nandre and Bhimpal's conspiracy, the Sultan immediately ordered the army to set off on the campaign. Before this, he was never seen giving the order to set out on a campaign without informing the soldiers of the target, objective, and strategy of the campaign. Analysts have said about this, on questions of Islam's policy and ideals, the Sultan was very passionate and emotional. He then said, in the area of South Kashmir where he had verbally enforced Islamic governance and given orders to the local inhabitants to accept Islam, the majority of the local inhabitants had accepted Islam, and many mosques and schools had been established at his instruction. A large number of imams and teachers had been sent from Lahore, Batinda, and other places to Kashmir, but the defeated Hindu kings had woven multifarious conspiracy nets to confuse the new Muslims. Not only that, they had also arrested the regional administrator, Commander Sawayag. At the same time, they were preparing to declare war on the Sultan again. Then the Sultan was so angry that he had no time for natural war thinking and planning. He could not stop himself in a natural state and think, in what state and with whom he was setting out for confrontation. So his forces arrived in Kashmir before the heavy winter cold and snowfall had begun, which he had not given any thought to. He could not think excessive cold and heavy snowfall could be the reason for his defeat or could make the campaign futile. Historian Haydar Kagani writes in Tariq-e-Rashidi, perhaps due to the morale of continuous previous victories and the irritation of enemies' conspiracies, the Sultan did not think about the campaign's time, location, condition, and obstacles at all before ordering the soldiers to set off, or regarding Kashmir's natural conditions in winter, its natural environment and circumstances. He had no actual knowledge. His knowledge of Kashmir's routes was also unclear. In fact, taking even a few more soldiers from Peshawar, he reached Kashmir's border with even greater speed than usual. In the first decade of January 1508, the Sultan arrived in Kashmir with his force. By then, mountains and plains everywhere had become snow-covered due to heavy snowfall. The Sultan's intelligence source gave him news. Raja Bhimpal and Nandre were now not in the Kalanjara fort but were stationed in the Lohakot fort. Instead of besieging the Kalanjara fort and wasting time, Advice was given to besiege the Lohakot fort, because if the Lohakot fort was captured and taken over, the Kalanjara fort would fall without a siege. Meanwhile, the Maharajas stationed in the Lohakot fort received news. Sultan Mahmud had arrived. Maharaja Nandre called the chief of the conspiracy and saboteur group and said, "Bring those people of yours." Within moments, 10 to 12 people's one group was made to stand before Raja Nandre. "Do you know what you have to do?" Raja Nandre asked the people standing in front. "Yes, Maharaja. We are fully informed of our duty. We will go to the Sultan and say, 'We are the Muslims of this area.' Wearing this area's clothes, we will present ourselves before him unflinchingly as genuine Muslims. We will appeal to him. We want to be a partner in your campaign and have come to provide guides for your forces, because the seasonal snowfall has buried all the heavily used path signs. We know which path to take to Lohakot. We will speak like genuine, faithful Muslims. To earn their trust, we have learned the kalima and prayers with correct pronunciation." "Excellent. However you do it, bring him to Lohakot. I firmly believe he will have to return failed from Lohakot. On the return path, you yourselves will be their pathfinders. Then you will show your true character." These 10 to 12 people were hardened Hindus. They were trained saboteurs. They had been waiting to confuse Sultan Mahmud. In conduct, speech, and attire, they had all rehearsed every skill of presenting themselves as genuine Muslims. The Sultan gave the order to advance toward the Lohakot fort. He ignored the path's difficulty, the extreme cold, and heavy snowfall. Whatever military posts he had in Kashmir, he had selected experienced guides from them to reach Lohakot. Because the custom of that era was, if any military force attacked any unfamiliar place, local guides would be recruited. While advancing toward Lohakot, a caravan of 10 to 12 people came and joined the Sultan's forces. The people of this group showed great enthusiasm about cooperating with the Sultan. They presented themselves before the Sultan as faithful Muslims unflinchingly. They also said, "We have long been tormented by these Hindu kings. Today we are determined to take revenge for their oppression." Their emotional appeal and acting like Muslims reassured them, and the Sultan divided each one of them to each military unit as a guide. He told the commanders, "Advance following their directions." Sultan Mahmud had heard many stories about the Lohakot fort, but when he actually saw the Lohakot fort, he thought very little had been told about the Lohakot fort. Sultan Mahmud was a master of fort conquering, but seeing the Lohakot fort, he received a huge shock. Seeing it, he immediately understood why Lohakot fort was famous as an unconquerable fort. The fort was situated on top of a huge mountain. It was as impregnable as it was solidly built. The fort's walls were built of a huge rampart made of a complete mixture of stone and soil. Besides, on the 4 sides of the fort were 4 high towers. From these towers it was easy to wound any attacking group with arrows. The most remarkable thing was that around the fort there were naturally deep moats on all 4 sides. In front of every gate there were many sharp slopes. The gates were made of massive iron. Even if elephants struck them with hard wooden beams, breaking them was not possible. Sultan Mahmud examined the fort deeply and gathered all his soldiers together. Mounting a horse, he stood on top of a nearby hill, and with the purpose of boosting his soldiers' courage and raising their morale, he said, "O soldiers of Allah, you have not come here for the Ghazni Sultanate. You have come for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him. We had given the people of this area the initiation of Islam and made them turn back from Allah's disobedience. But the faithless kings here have unleashed a storm of oppression on them only for the crime of becoming Muslim. Today you need to light the lamp of Islam with the blood of these faithless ones. That fort you see, this fort mocks you. The season here also mocks you. You are accustomed to fighting on warm, sandy battlefields. Today prove here, even if ice and snow freeze the earth and sky together, Muslim blood never freezes. The heat of faith can melt even snowy mountains. Look, we have come from far away. We have come here to bring Allah's message to his servants. Taking Allah as witness, take an oath. Without raising the flag of Islam over this impregnable fort, we will not return. The Sultan seldom gave such passionate speeches directly to the soldiers. In most cases, he sent motivating messages to the soldiers through commanders. Through tough and rigorous training, Sultan Mahmud made every single soldier the most self-sacrificing, endurance-bearing, and courageous at the highest level. There was no real need to motivate them with passionate speeches. But the condition of the Lohakot fort and the awful circumstances of the snowfall had made the prospect of victory so painful in the Sultan's mind that in the hardest of hard situations, one who had never been seen to change his demeanor at even the hardest situation, whoever could not trouble, alarm, and lose hope. That mountain-like courageous Sultan's chest felt conquering the Lohakot fort, so impossible that his voice had become faint. While giving the speech, he had to stop repeatedly. It seemed he was fumbling to find the right words. Before any battle, the Sultan would dismount and offer 2 rakat voluntary prayers. But on this day, dismounting from his horse, he did not do that. He said nothing like, "I have received the sign of victory. Victory will be ours." On many battlefields he had made such prophecies. After his speech he brought his horse down from the hill. Around the Lohakot fort the cry of Allah Akbar began rising. The mountain on which the fort was situated, there were countless hills outside it. All these hills and level areas were full of trees. On the fort's outer slope, too, there were many trees. But in a few days the trees on the fort slope had been cut down and cleared. Sultan Mahmud went around the fort on all 4 sides. From the fort walls and towers, Hindu soldiers were threatening him and hurling various insults. Hindu soldiers were saying tauntingly, "Mahmud, your God has written your grave in the snow." Deploying archer units on the hills and mountains on all 4 sides, the Sultan gave orders to fire arrows at the soldiers on the fort walls. With the help of the archers, he ordered the clearly visible soldiers to dig tunnels below the fort wall. He knew Kashmir's mountains were not of pure stone, they were of mixed clay. Therefore digging there would not be so difficult. Sultan Mahmud had thought if tunnels could be dug a few yards deep, the diggers could protect themselves from the arrows at the top of the fort wall and carry out the digging freely. The wall breaching and tunnel digging group, upon receiving orders, went ahead with the digging work, but within moments their activity stopped. One of them could not even return alive. Arrows rained down like rain from the fort wall and caught them all. The Sultan's archers deployed on surrounding hills and mountains were firing arrows toward the enemy archers on the fort wall. But due to the great distance, those arrows could not suppress the enemy archers on the fort wall. A few soldiers, risking their lives, picked up flammable materials and hammers, shovels to set fire to the main gate and break it and advance toward the gate. But in front of the gate was a clever slope, and it was covered in snow. The Muslim soldiers going up the slope to reach the top would slip in the snow and start falling, and from above, the enemy's sharp arrows would pour down, and they would keep falling. Among them, apart from 2 or 3 people, none could return alive. Attacks on other gates were tried similarly. At one gate, a few daredevils began to strike, but from above the fort wall, burning wood and fiery torches were thrown at the gate breakers by the enemy forces. Everyone's bodies were scorched. Historians, Udbi, Garditsi, Ibn al-Azir, and 2 European historians wrote, even at night the Sultan's soldiers continued trying to dig tunnels below the fort wall. But during the daytime the Sultan could see a pile of Muslim soldiers' bodies had accumulated in a moat below the fort wall. Seeing the situation, the Sultan's face darkened with rage and anguish. He ran around the fort like a madman and kept giving orders to dig tunnels. At the Sultan's orders, Muslim commanders and soldiers were giving their lives without hesitation. Before the next evening had set in, pitch darkness fell on all sides. In the freezing cold night's darkness began heavy snowfall accompanied by strong blizzarding wind. In the fierce blizzard and heavy snowfall, not just humans but even trained war horses could not stand. The war horses started running around to save their lives, but there was no shelter anywhere to take. Level and uneven places everywhere were being covered with snow. Which was a moat, which was a hill, it was impossible to tell. The direction of snowfall and blizzard was toward. That direction was Kashmir's famous Jhelum River. The strong wind's force was pushing all cavalry and supply animals to that direction. The swift current and the snow-covered steep banks, no one had the means to climb up from the riverbank. That night, how many soldiers and how many supply animals floated away in the Jhelum River current? Keeping an accurate count was not possible. When the sun rose at the end of the night, no one had the means to say, this was yesterday's Jhelum Bank and around the Lohakot fort. Thousands of Muslim warriors had sunk below the snow. High snow layers had fallen everywhere. The surviving commanders told the Sultan humbly, in the intoxication of continuous victory, we did not consider this campaign in this way. This was perhaps Allah's will. Now let us be patient. Allah wills, we will come again. Those who are still alive, saving their lives should be given priority. Sultan Mahmud, accepting the commander's advice, ordered the soldiers to return. He took the responsibility of failure on his own shoulders. But there was also no way to return. Everything had been buried under snow. In such a critical state, the guides who had joined on the path came forward. In this time of grief, they reassured the Sultan. "Honored Sultan! There is no reason for grief. There is still one clear path to return." The forces were then scattered. They were divided into three main sections. The disguised identity-hiding Hindu guides divided into three and assumed the role of guides. The fierce snowfall of the night, the failure of the tunnel digging in the snowstorm, and the loss of more than half the soldiers before the failed campaign. The remaining less than half of the soldiers, divided into three sections, were being shown the path to return to Ghazni by the disguised identity-hiding enemy guides. Regarding the outcome of this, historian Khwarizm wrote, after the severe snowfall and snow blizzard, the next day Sultan Mahmud was compelled to lift the siege and return. But on the return path, the Hindu pathfinders were able to confuse them to such an extent that for a whole week they led the entire force wandering around killing on the unknown, unfamiliar, snowy path. Extreme cold, insufficient food, the grief of failure, and the sorrow of losing companions, even in this state the Muslim warriors were exhausted, crushed, and morale broken. In such a state, on snow-covered paths most soldiers had to cross by walking on foot. They had to carry weapons and essential supplies on their shoulders. The enemy's secret guide was leading them along the narrow bank of the Jhelum River. As they kept advancing, Muslim warriors kept repeatedly slipping and falling into the depths of the deep river. Besides, there were snow traps everywhere. Though level ground was visible, below the thin snow layer were deep pits. Many warriors kept sinking into these traps and going under the snow. Many horses and supply animals also fell into the snow traps and gave up their lives. Those warriors in the extreme cold who lost the strength to walk and sat down. It was no longer possible for them to stand up straight and advance. In this way, countless soldiers of the Sultan had to give their lives. Yet all of these were alert warriors of Sultan Mahmud's forces. Fort Conquest was not possible. Moreover, accepting failure and returning, hundreds of soldiers had to be sacrificed at the enemy guide's treachery. The companion guide enemies abandoned the entire force one day and fled, wandering around lost in the snow-covered mountain path, losing the majority of his companions. When Sultan Mahmud reached Commander Sawayag's camp at Tilo Ugir, by then only a handful of the few hundred warriors were with him. Defeated, exhausted, grief-stricken, the Sultan stayed a few days at Sawayag's camp and returned to Ghazni. New chapter. When the target is power and the twern, 3rd July, 103rd, July 1A CE, equivalent to 5th Safar 48 Hijri. Sultan Mahmud was compelled to be engaged in a terrifying, blood-soaked conflict against the joint conspiracy of co-tribal faith traitors. This conflict was creating a long-lasting impact against Sultan Mahmud. Behind this conflict was the combined conspiracy of Jews, Christians, and Muslim conspirators. In 1215 CE, having fallen victim to an unparalleled loss, defeated and exhausted, Sultan Mahmud had returned to Ghazni from Kashmir with only a handful of companions. To recover from this enormous loss and to reorganize the army, it took several continuous years for the Sultan. Because the failure of the Kashmir Lohakot fort, the natural hostility, and the conspiracy of the Hindu saboteur guides had completely ruined Sultan Mahmud's military power. At that point, his forces did not even have the capability to fight an ordinary battle. The soldiers assigned to protect the capital Ghazni and the permanent posts at the border. Beyond these, his central command was almost devoid of manpower. In such a state, he had the capability to repel external invasion, but not the manpower in the army for a counterattack. He did not fear much of an attack from the Hindus' side, because by then terror still prevailed among the Hindus. Having accepted defeat at the Kashmir Lohakot fort, staying for a few days at the camp with only a handful of soldiers, even though Raja Bimpal and Nandre had a huge force, they did not have the courage to attack him. Yet at this time, if a huge powerful Hindu force had attacked, it might have resulted in the Sultan being taken prisoner, or he would have had to drink the cup of martyrdom. But the Hindu kings and Maharajas, terrified of the wounded tiger, were keeping themselves at a safe distance from him. So even though there was no risk of attack from the identified Hindu side, the risk from the power-hungry neighboring small Muslim rulers' side was quite strong. Most neighboring Muslim rulers had singly or jointly fought against the Sultan and been defeated once or several times. Each time the Sultan had forgiven these power-hungry rulers and released them with the expectation of peaceful coexistence. But these throne and power-worshipping, policy and ideal-straying rulers were always alarmed at the Sultan's powerful position. They always, waking and sleeping, dreaming and waking, desired the Sultan's destruction. They were constantly engaged in weaving mutual conspiracy and treachery nets to weaken and eliminate the Sultan. The conspiratorial neighboring rulers found this misfortune of the Sultan a great opportunity. They got to work trying to exploit this opportunity. After the failed Kashmir campaign, when Sultan Mahmud returned to Ghazni, his condition was like a badly wounded spinning top. Just as a spinning top, flying through air on the mercy of the wind, doesn't know where it will fall to earth or crash, into which tree branch. The very few soldiers who were with Sultan Mahmud after the Kashmir campaign's end were returning to the capital like a mourning procession. The Ghazni people who had gathered on the road to welcome them upon hearing of the return of the forces, seeing the forces' devastated condition, no more words came from their mouths. The roar of the takbir of victory celebration had seemingly lodged in their chests. The women who had been standing at doors and windows watching the forces return, seeing the soldiers' devastated scene, they bit their fingers. Sultan Mahmud, seeing the Ghazni capital dwellers such grief-laden silence, stopped his horse and called his chief commander Altantash. "Altantash, what has happened? Why have all the eager people of the capital fallen silent? Why have they lost their slogan at the soldiers' death? Tell them. Soldiers live for the nation's need. So everyone's dying is not acceptable. You should not stop your slogans. You must maintain your slogans. Give slogans. Long live Islam. Long live the Sultanate of Ghazni. Long live the Sultan of Ghazni. You must revive the wounded soldiers. Your enthusiasm and vitality will help them stand up. Those who have accepted martyrdom, they have given their lives in service to the nation. We must protect the honor of their sacrifice." Commander Altantash repeated the Sultan's words loudly. Occasionally the Ghazni sky air resonated with, "Long live the Sultanate of Ghazni! Long live Islam! Long live the soldiers of Islam! Long live the idol-smashing Sultan!" Sultan Mahmud again said to the commander, "Tell the women, Islam demands from you the sacrifice of your brothers and sons. You should not mourn the loss of loved ones. For the need of Islam, you must sacrifice your husbands, sons, and brothers." Commander Altantash also repeated these words loudly. Hearing this, the women who had hidden their gathered flowers began throwing them at the wounded soldiers. At the same time, from the women's throats came, "No problem, take our brother sons' husbands for the sake of Islam." Sultan Mahmud was able to convert the morale of the capital dwellers' grief into power, but the thorn of failure and despair that had been lodged in his own heart's depths, he was not able to remove it at all. He had taken on his own shoulders all the responsibility of every failure of the Kashmir campaign. He called the surviving commanders of the forces and the commanders stationed in Ghazni and said, "Victory and defeat are ultimately in Allah's hands, but the responsibility for all failures of the Lohakot campaign is mine. I accept all duties and responsibilities on my own shoulders, because I did not consider the seasonal influence there at all. I did not verify the situation from local news senders. Above all, I was deceived by the Hindu deceivers. This disgrace, this failure, the duty of converting it into victory I now take on my shoulders. Governing a kingdom is not my work. My work is to spread Allah's word. You all remember one thing. If now anyone tries to ridicule you for defeat, welcome that ridicule with a smiling face, reassure them. If your support and cooperation remain, the Ghazni forces will very soon wipe away the grief of defeat." Even after taking the full burden of failure on his own shoulders, Sultan Mahmud was not finding peace. Increasingly his mind was becoming extremely restless with unease. To get relief from mental restlessness and unease, finally he set out for the meeting of his Sheikh Abul Hassan Kakani. Kakani lived about 1.5 days' distance from Ghazni. With just a few security guards, Sultan Mahmud arrived at his dear spiritual guide's presence at an abnormally fast speed. Seeing Sultan Mahmud, confused, broken-hearted and mentally devastated, Kakani said, "Looking at the condition, it seems the Sultan has come back defeated. But why then are there tears in his eyes?" "The humiliation and grief of failure, guide," said the Sultan. "I am mentally broken. I have left thousands of companions buried under Kashmir's snow. Their souls do not let me sleep at night. It is as if they keep whispering in my ear. What did you do, Sultan? For what crime did you bury us under Kashmir's snow? We were the battlefield men. We were accustomed to fighting shoulder to shoulder with you against the faithless." Confusion. You have fallen victim to a sense of mental guilt. The souls of those warriors who vowed to avenge the blood of companions and those who accepted martyrdom, they do not confuse their commander. They do not create any kind of trouble. Look, the souls of these martyred soldiers will be converted into living warriors. In Allah's name, wherever you fight from here on. Wherever you fight, these souls will add their strength to yours. The path of a firm-willed fighter like you cannot be blocked by this type of confusion. These are purely emotional matters, Sultan. Do not be crushed. Countless oppressed Hindus are waiting for your path. Hundreds of demolished mosques are counting the hours awaiting your arrival. I was terribly deceived. First, the season deceived me, and second, trained Hindu conspirators disguised as Muslims deceived me as guides. These deceptions by the Hindus are no new matter, Sultan, said Kakani. From the very foundation of Islam, infidel forces have been deceiving Muslims. This deception will continue in the future. Your work is to be alert, so that such deceptions cannot be fallen into in the future. Perhaps before India, you will have to fight against the traitors of your own homeland. The Jews and Christians together have cut off the root of Muslim unity and solidarity. The Caliph who was the symbol of Muslim unity and solidarity, that very Caliph is now blind with the greed of power and the throne. The central power of the Muslim Ummah has been fractured and fragmented. If you were committed to fighting jihad for the sake of Islam, then throw the sultanship mentality out of your mind. Keep a sharp eye on both known and unknown enemies. Do not terrify the masses and people of your own nation and homeland with military force. Spread terror among enemies with military force. Crown and sword cannot coexist. Love stays with the sword, not with the throne. The sword that is used to protect the crown and throne is a despicable sword. You should not be crushed by just one defeat, Sultan. Rise, the one who stumbles and falls. After this stumble and fall, shake yourself up again and stand with that power of the state you were in. Take your own error on your own shoulders. Do not convey false information to the nation about this matter. You said, Jews and Christians have cut off our roots. What do you mean by this? The Sultan threw a question toward Kaki. The greatest enemy of Islam is the Jewish nation, said Sheikh Abu Hassan Karkani. The Jews treat the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem as their place of worship. They tried to make Palestine their own state, to capture Kaaba, and to destroy the individual place of worship of Muslims. The Jews are not a face-to-face fighting nation. They never want to get involved in face-to-face conflict. In their hands is boundless wealth. Using this wealth, they are cutting the roots of Muslims. Like the Hindus, the Jews also use women and daughters to harm the Muslims. The Christians too have aided the Jews against the Muslims, the community that unveiled the true face of the Carmathians, whose children you gave the proper initiation of Islam. The founders of this infidel mixed so-called Muslim community were Jewish scholars. Against you, the Muslim rulers who are continuously engaged in conspiracies, behind the curtain the Jews have tied the bond of friendship with them. To keep you entangled in civil war, the Jews are involved. Very soon, perhaps, you will have to fight against the traitors of your own homeland. Try to bring the opposing sides to your side. Keep your trust in the great Allah and remain alert at all times. Keep the masses and people of your own land with you. Try to reorganize the forces quickly and keep special attention on Khwarizm. I have heard already the Jews' scheming is intensively operating in Khwarizm. At that time, Khwarizm was an independent state. Turjanaya was Khwarizm's capital. Bukhara was a province of Khwarizm. Khwarizm had the kingdom of the Mamuni dynasty. From long before, Khwarizm was a Muslim-ruled state. In 995 CE, Abu Ali Mamun bin Muhammad ibn Ali attacked the Khwarizm king Abu Abdullahek and captured him and took over the entire Khwarizm state. After keeping him in custody for 2 years, in 997 CE, Abu Ali Mamun was killed. But the killer Abu Ali Mamun could not seize governance from the Mamuni dynasty. After his father's death, Abu Ali Mamun's son Abu Hassan Ali Mamun came to the throne. After 12 years of rule, in 109 CE, he died at an immature age. 3 years before his death, to strengthen the friendship relationship with Sultan Mahmud, he married the Sultan's younger sister. After her husband's death, the Sultan's sister left Khwarizm and came to the Sultan. After Abul Hassan Ali Mamun's death, his younger brother Abul Abbas Mamun came to power. His age at that time was only 25. Abul Abbas had 2 wives. Khwarizm state's prime minister was Abul Hariz bin Muhammad. He had been in the minister's position since the time of Abul Abbas's father, Abu Ali Mamun. This old minister had deep loyalty with the Mamuni dynasty in his heart. Abul Hariz was a genuine Muslim. He had a natural love for Muslims in his heart. Mature and straightforward Mamun's 2 sons grew up on this person's lap. So he gave them beneficial advice like a father and told them to refrain from any harmful and unpleasant actions. The Bukhara province's governor of Khwarizm state was Al-Aftajin, a middle-aged and experienced, astute, clever ruler. Al-Hariz did not like this person. Apparently, Al-Aftajin followed Khwarizm state and Mamuni dynasty's orders, but his overall conduct was suspicious. After Abul Abbas came to power, one day he privately called the reliable, experienced, and elderly minister, Al-Hariz. Abul Abbas in private exchanged views with Al-Hariz about the state's security, the people's condition, and administrative matters. At one point of the exchange of views, Abul Abbas told Al-Hariz, "My father has been killed. My elder brother has also died. I feel very alone. In this lonely situation, a secret thorn stabbing in my heart is causing pain. Can you get to the bottom of this secret? Whatever web of secrets can be pierced by this old man's eyes, no one else will be able to do that. Nothing of the Mamuni dynasty's past and present is hidden from me. If any secret thorn is lodged in your mind, show it to me. Perhaps I can remove it, said the elderly minister Al-Hez. You know, after the brother's death, the Bukhara governor Al-Aftajin came here. He then told me privately he deeply condoles your elder brother's death and congratulates you as the new king of Khwarizm. Along with that, today it is his duty to unveil a secret to you. You know, your father was murdered. You also know the murderers, but you may not know. Your brother, too, was a victim of murder. It was not his natural death. Hearing this news, I was not very troubled, because I know our enemies, but Al-Aftajin told me the brother was given such a type of poison, the reaction of which was like stomach pain. Slowly this poisoning continued in his body, but the doctors could not identify this poison beyond stomach pain. This is not impossible at all. Enemies can do many things, said Vizier Abul Haris. Your enemies are frightened by your military power, so they may take recourse to this type of conspiracy. But the matter does not end only here, honored vizier, said the new ruler Abul Abbas. Al-Aftajin told me without hesitation it was Sultan Mahmud who applied poison to my brother, and the one who ate that poison was the Sultan's sister and my brother's wife. The reason given for this poisoning, Sultan Mahmud had told the brother to accept his subjugation, but the brother had rejected that proposal. Now should I believe Al-Aftajin's words? No, you will not believe it, said the old Al-Hayes. Even though Al-Aftajin says this, I don't take it to be true at all. Besides, I don't believe this to be true because Sultan Mahmud is a flesh-and-blood fighter, mujahid. Poisoning someone can be believed, but that he would have someone poisoned, this cannot be believed. I personally know him. If he were eager to increase his kingdom and the boundaries of his state, he would constantly be trying to survive. But looking at his actions and deeds, you will also say, long surviving and doing kingdom is not his hobby. You know how many times he has gone from Ghazni, hundreds of miles away, to fight in Hindustan. Even now he has gone to fight in the most remote, difficult part of Hindustan, hundreds of miles from Ghazni. He is a soldier of Islam, a propagator devoted to spreading Islam. He is a successful idol destroyer. When new King Abul Abbas and the experienced vizier were talking with each other like this, Sultan Mahmud was then besieging the Lohakot fort in South Kashmir in hostile weather and the wall of the impregnable fort and getting caught in the traps of the snowfall. His companions were losing their lives prematurely, crushed under the heavy snowfall. You can see how many times the Sultan has voluntarily stepped into death traps, said Hars. Hindu king's military power is no minor matter. Against the present Hindu military power in the Muslim world, only Sultan Mahmud can take on the challenge, and he is doing so. Such fighting warriors never kill anyone by poisoning. I do not wish to be killed, said Abul Abbas. Whoever wants me alive, and also wants to live themselves. I want to make them my friend. Give me advice. Should I make the Turkestani dynasties my friend, or make Sultan Mahmud my friend? Sultan Mahmud is the most powerful in my view. Whatever your belief about Sultan Mahmud, the way he, by force, forcibly makes enemies submit and incorporate their area into the Ghazni Sultanate, one day he may tell me too to accept his obedience. Besides, to remain safe from the attacks of enemies on all four sides, I need a strong friend. Only Sultan Mahmud has the capability to fulfill that power and friend requirement, said Vizier Al-Haris. I want to speak what is in my mind today with you, honored Vizier, said Abul Abbas. A friendship bond only through words and pledges does not last that long. My mind has come up with a wonderful strategy to make the friendship long-lasting and strong. I will send a marriage proposal to Sultan Mahmud for his widowed sister. She is my elder brother's widow. I liked her very much then. By age she is perhaps half a year older than me, but will Sultan Mahmud agree about his sister's marriage? Alhaz smiled slightly and said, On this matter I can say nothing at all. But do you not think about this risky matter? If your brother could give her poison, then you too can give you poison. No, Nahida cannot give me poison, said Abul Abbas, looking up toward the sky and speaking in a self-talking way. No, Labani cannot kill me by poisoning. He spoke slightly excitedly. Looking toward Abulhaz, he said, Labani knows how much I love her. I was her husband's younger brother-in-law. She loved me greatly, used to affectionately call me Shahzada. Truly speaking, after the brother's death, I have been able to bear the brother's absence, but I cannot bear Labani's departure. Do you want to marry Nahida for her love or to strengthen friendship and alliance with the Sultan? Both are my goal, said Abul Abbas in reply to the vizier's question. But affection for Nahida may get priority. The true matter is, Nahida also loved me, but our relationship had no impurity. Our relationship was much like brother and sister, or a virtuous sister-in-law, and a caring brother-in-law type relationship. Of course now the situation has changed considerably. Then my depth of feeling for Nahida was such that my second wife Al-Nuri was very displeased with me about this. You know Al-Nuri's father Abu Ishaq. He is one of the top commanders and generals of our military. He told me Al-Nuri has made a baseless complaint about me and the brother's widow woman to him. I told Al-Nuri's father, Al-Nuri has raised a groundless complaint against me and the brother's widow woman. In the future, she should not dare to do such again. After I said this, the condition of his face that I saw, it did not seem good at all. Let Sultan Mahmud return from Hindustan. Your proposal, as much as it has love in it, also has shrewd politics in it. Think more about this. I, too, will think more about the matter, said the vizier. When Abul Abbas and his chief vizier Abulhaz were exchanging views about establishing a friendship and intimacy relationship with Sultan Mahmud was then being devastated in the hostile environment of Kashmir's failure and disgrace. His unconquered forces' soldiers were floating away in the cold waters of the Jhelum River and sinking below the snow in snowfall. About 6 months after this event, Vizier Abul Hariz one day told King Abul Abbas privately, Amazing news has come from Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud has returned from Kashmir so shamefully defeated that not even 1/10 of his soldiers have returned with him. Those who returned, the majority of them are mortally wounded. In this return of Mahmud's with him, there was no war booty from Hindustan loaded on war elephants, no Hindu prisoners. His entire military power was destroyed there. Even after this, I want to marry his sister, said Abul Abbas. You are an experienced person. With your experience, I do not have such. But I believe, if in my time of distress I extend a friendly hand toward Sultan Mahmud, he will surely be grateful and wish-fulfilling toward me. If any calamity ever comes upon us, he will surely come forward in our cooperation. Tell me what time is appropriate to send my proposal to him. Do I need to go myself? Right now is the appropriate time, said Alhaz. He must share in this shameful defeat. Besides, diplomatically it can also be said, we are ready to cooperate with him. In this matter your going is not necessary. I will go myself and also deliver the marriage proposal. A few days later, Khwarizm's experienced vizier Abul Hariz along with 2 messengers and a few security guards with some gift-laden camels arrived in Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud received news. Khwarizm King Abul Abbas's vizier has come to meet the Sultan. Upon hearing the news, an immediate instruction was given to bring the vizier to the Sultan's presence. Khwarizm's king Shah Abul Abbas Mamun sent some gifts to the Sultan Ali Makam's service. Along with that, on the Kashmir campaign's irrecoverable loss and defeat, he has expressed heartfelt sympathy. Shah Khwarizm has also said, Allah the Almighty gave the Sultan such amazing victories and then gave just one defeat. This is also part of the continuous success. Allah the Almighty gave Ghazni's Sultan the morale and courage. hopes that defeat cannot overwhelm him. The Shah said, "If needed, I am ready to give any kind of help and cooperation. Because in times of danger, brother serves brother. Our etiquette and tradition does not support that a Muslim king's honored vizier would stand before the Sultan and speak," said the Sultan. "Please come and sit beside me." The Sultan spoke to Abul Abbas with respect. The Sultan's experienced and old-aged diplomat and minister Abul Haris came and sat. Then Sultan Mahmud said, "I congratulate Khwarizm's king. When I was fearing self-interest from my neighbors at this time of distress, exactly at that moment he extended the hand of friendship and alliance. Tell him my salam and say, an undoubtedly reliable friend is very much needed by me. But I do not want help and cooperation from anyone other than Allah. I also have a strong interest in Khwarizm's internal condition. Abul Abbas is very young. Does he know what is happening at Bukhara's coast? Does he know the governor Alaftagin's ambitions? Even if he doesn't know, these matters are not unknown to me, Sultan," said Vizier Abul Haris. "Governor Alaftagin's conduct also seems suspicious to me. But we have trust in the military. From what I know, I can say putting too much trust in the army is not right. In the army, ordinary soldiers have no role in policy making. Mainly the commanders and deputy commanders are the army's backbone. They make policy and ordinary soldiers are their subordinates. They are only used. Many times among military officials, the intoxication of becoming a ruler comes and ordinary soldiers become the sacrificial victims of their ambitions. Both troubles fall on ordinary soldiers. Whatever criticism and condemnation the common people have, all falls on ordinary soldiers. Punishment is also for them to receive. The officials stay behind curtains, beyond the people's touch and reach. You need to keep a strict eye on military officials. For a long time, the Vizier and Sultan exchanged views on various topics. Vizier Abul Haris was an experienced and far-sighted person. In the course of conversation, he created the opportunity to deliver the marriage proposal. "Honored Sultan, Abul Abbas has properly given you a cooperation proposal, but in truth he himself is expecting your help. He does not yet have any need for help. He is keen to form a firm friendship with you. He wants to form friendship with a ruler who will never deceive him. And besides you, there is no such person. To form a stable and unbreakable friendship bond, he wants to marry your sister, the widow of his dead brother. Sultan should accept this appeal wholeheartedly. He earnestly desires this. The marriage decision my sister will make herself," said the Sultan. "I am not at all willing to use my sister for administrative self-interest. I can advise her, explain the importance of Khwarizm and Ghazni's relationship to her, but I cannot impose my decision on her, because the marriage matter is entirely a matter of her heart. To get the answer to this, a few days' time must be given. I knew Abul Abbas as a good-hearted person before ascending the Khwarizm throne," the Sultan's widowed sister told the Sultan. "Then he was an absolute child. Now he is young. That same young man is now a king on the throne. Observing him at this stage or saying something about him is difficult. Of course now he has definitely changed a lot. Give his messages reply yourself. I have informed his representative. I cannot impose any decision on my sister about this matter." "That is perhaps correct. But to make this decision I need your advice. If you think, if I become Abul Abbas's wife it will benefit Khwarizm and Ghazni, then I am not at all reluctant to marry Abul Abbas. I have no desire to become any king's wife to beautify his palace. Similarly, I have no ambition to become a queen and empress decorated with ornaments. The brother whose every breath was spent in the state of jihad on horseback, his sister can never become a queen and spend time in luxury at some king's royal palace. Tell me clearly, if I marry Khwarizm Shah as his third wife, what benefit will come to the Muslims and Ghazni Sultanate? If that happens, then any day I am ready to marry Abul Abbas." "There is an opportunity to use Khwarizm's soldiers in jihad," said Sultan Mahmud. Small Muslim state rulers and Muslim kings-emperors are mutually engaged in conflict. Whenever the threat of any powerful opponent's attack intensifies, only then do Muslim rulers get together a few and form an alliance. For the sake of Islam, they are never interested in forming any coalition or alliance. Muslim rulers are mutually engaged in conflict. This conflict and opposition is being very secretly fueled by the Jewish Nasara community. I want to unite the mutually fragmented Muslim rulers against the infidels. Khwarizm is a powerful state, but I am getting news. Conspiracies have started inside Khwarizm. It seems Abu Abbas is not at all aware of this. My concern is Bukhara's governor, Alaftajin, could stand him against me. It might also happen when I am busy filling my army post. At this opportunity, Khwarizm's soldiers attack Ghazni. I can resist them in whatever state, but my soldier count is absolutely low. Besides, this would be only civil war. In the war between two Muslim states, Islam's power will diminish and the non-Muslims will take advantage of this. The most important thing is, now in any war with any Muslim state, those who will benefit most are the Hindu idol-worshipping rulers. If you think, by becoming Abu Abbas's wife, I can protect him from Alaftajin's malice and conspiracy, then I have no objection to this marriage, said Nahid. You can better say this yourself. Well, when you were your brother's wife, what kind of influence did you have over him? Was there any acquaintance between you two at that time? Said the Sultan. Then he was my most devoted junior, said Nahid. I used to care for him greatly. He was eager for my affection and love, because his mother had died long before. Then his father was killed. I did not let little Abu Abbas feel the absence of his mother and father. He spent most of his time with me. He was a prince. But even being a prince, the lack of human warmth and affection cannot be filled with pomp and grandeur. He respected me like a mother and an elder sister. First he got married. Within a short time he took another wife into the house. But even so, to pour out his heart's joys and sorrows, he would come running to me. But 4 months after his brother's death, when I was preparing to leave their palace, brother-in-law, you cannot imagine, even as a grown young man, he cried out like a child then. He had not cried that much even at his brother's death. Then you can well and truly take him under your wing. His heart must not just be filled with affection for the Ghazni Sultanate, affection for Islam must be built. For me, it is more important to subdue Islam's enemies who have risen up against Islam's enlightened chapter than to make my Sultanate risk-free. If his mind and spirit has not been spoiled by sitting on the royal throne, then I hope I can bring him to the right path, said Nahid. I will not hesitate at all to sacrifice my emotions and feelings for your good intention and for the honor of Islam. I will turn Khwarizm's military forces' attention toward the infidels. I cannot go to the battlefield with you in jihad, but I can give strength to your jihad. That very day, upon hearing Nahid's words, Sultan Mahmud sent Abu Abbas Mamun a large amount of gifts with the message, if the previous proposal still stands, he can marry the Sultan's younger sister Nahid. Within a month, the wedding arrangement of Abu Abbas and Nahid was made, but this marriage was not just a marriage. It became transformed into a terrifying tornado for the Sultan, which shook the entire Muslim world to its foundations. Not just through dancing. The Sultan had to go to war at sea with it. Thousands of ships from both sides participated in naval warfare. Before this terrible war, extremely subtle conspiratorial games were played. The diplomatic conspiracy whose gear both sides had wound was the gear of marriage. The marriage happened. In a somewhat ordinary manner, the Sultan entrusted his beloved younger sister Nahid to Khwarizm's young king, Abu Abbas's bond. Abu Abbas, with great joy, took the new bride home and arranged a grand Weema feast. For Shah Khwarizm's this third wedding, the capital Jurjania was so decorated with lights that the night capital took on the appearance of day. All neighboring Muslim rulers were invited. Thousands of guests' footsteps filled the capital. From Sultan Mahmud's side, instead of the Sultan himself, his two senior commanders, Abu Abdullah al-Tazi and Commander Altantash, represented him. With them were also a few hundred more soldiers. Besides, there was also the intelligence chief and the commander of the anti-sabotage unit. At this great event, the governor of Khwarizm State's province, Bukhara, Alaftagin, attended in special splendor. Abul Abbas's key officers and commanders were also present at the ceremony. Bukhara region's military commander Kamratash and the military's most influential commander, Abul Abbas's second father-in-law Abul Ishaq, attended the ceremony with a proud demeanor. By chance, these three great dignitaries came side by side, took their seats, and on each one's face, instead of joy and happiness, there was suppressed tension and anger. Apparently they all smilingly shook hands with Sultan Mahmud's two representatives, but right after the exchange of pleasantries they moved slightly away from the Sultan's representatives and took their seats. Even before, sitting in plain clothes, two skilled handlers of Sultan Mahmud's special unit had been sitting there. These two were sent to the wedding ceremony with special directions and responsibilities for a special purpose by Sultan Mahmud. "Do not think, by marrying my sister, Abul Abbas has become my well-wisher," said Sultan Mahmud. "It might be that Abul Abbas genuinely wants to establish a true relationship with me, but you have given news. The internal administration and military there is making a niche for the occurrence of some misfortune. Conspiracy and palace intrigue is going on secretly. Going there you will not identify yourselves as companions of Altantash and Al-Tazi. Rather you will remain in plain clothes. Give your identity as Samarkand merchants. There will be many people gathering, games, entertainment, acrobatics. You will not be paying attention to these entertainments. Your gaze will be at those who are conspiring very secretly behind the curtain. At those three people's shadows you will follow like shadows. Even if you cannot hear their words directly, by their conduct and demeanor you will try to understand what they really want to do, what their future plans are." The three people among them. First was Bukhara governor Alaftagin, second was Abul Abbas's second father-in-law and one of the military's important commanders Abu Ishaq, and third was Bukhara region's military commander Kamratash. There was no need to give these two any more alertness and awareness, because they were both the heads of two important intelligence branches. They already knew about Khwarizm's internal intrigue and conspiracy through their intelligence network. When these two persons were present at the Jurjaniya wedding ceremony, no one had the means to know that they were Sultan Mahmud's intelligence chief and below-ground event watcher, and they could see through anyone's inner mentality at a glance. They were both dressed in merchants' loose garments. Both of them sat behind Alaftagin, Kamratash, and Abul Ishaq. It would be night and horse racing would begin by torchlight. Large canopied tents had been set up on four sides of the vast field. On one side, a special decoration had been arranged for the king, new queen, and state guests. Sword competitions, wrestling, and various types of military skill exhibitions were arranged. Suddenly, with fierce and loud war music, it was announced the news of arrival of new groom king Abul Abbas and new groom king Abul Abbas and new queen bride Nahida. Abul Abbas was coming with new bride Nahida toward the tent. Nahida was tall, beautiful, and attractive. Her every step radiated royal dignity and ability. Young King Abul Abbas, too, was splendidly dressed. With firm steps he was taking Nahida toward the royal seat. The military musicians group filled the sky air with thundering music and fireworks. All around the crowds of spectators cheered. Long live the great King Abul Abbas, may their new couple be happy, may the Mamuni rule be long. Behind Abul Abbas and Nahida, Abul Abbas's first and second wives also came dressed in queen's attire, but in their faces there was not much gaiety, nor any sign of joy-filled emotion and enthusiasm. Sultan Mahmud, by marrying off his sister, not just Khwarizm Shah but the whole Khwarizm Sultanate, was planning to purchase, in a mocking voice said, Abul Abbas's second father-in-law and one of the military commanders, Abu Ishaq. At Abu Ishaq's words, Bukhara governor Alaftagin looked behind. Right behind them, Sultan Mahmud's two intelligence official merchants were sitting talking to each other. "Where have you come from?" Alaftagin asked the two people behind with a slight smile. Both of them mockingly shook Alaftagin's question's head. They both shook their heads to make Alaftagin understand their language he could not understand. Yet their mother tongue was Persian. Alaftagin had tried to learn their identity in Persian itself. Alaftagin, Kamratash, and Abu Ishaq each tried to learn their identity in various ways, but the two intelligence officials with deft skill made them understand. They could not understand any of their words. At one point, one of them said Furkoktag. Furkoktag is the name of a mountainous area located far to the east of Jurjaniye. The language there was different. They do not understand our language, said Bukhara Governor Alaftagin to his companion. I was trying to find out their identity, certainly. All right. Abu Isha, what were you saying? I was saying this marriage is not just between Abul Abbas and Nahida. Through this relationship, Sultan Mahmud is planning to purchase the whole of Khwarizm. From here on, Sultan Mahmud will envelope Abul Abbas and us in the fist of his sister, will make us dance at the signal of his finger. He will understand. The authority of Ghazni over Khwarizm has been established. Will you accept such a shameful dependence, Alaftagin? Or let that time come, said Alaftagin. If any Ghazni soldier's foot falls on Khwarizm's soil, no one will find even their trace. Preparation must be made in advance for that, said Commander Kamratash. The military is under your control. Keep the soldiers under your own command. Look, is it appropriate to discuss these things here? Said Commander Abu Ishaq in an anxious voice. No need to worry. The two Croesus people sitting beside us do not understand our language, said Commander Kamratash. They may not understand our language, but they can understand what is going on around them. There is no alternative to being careful, said Alaftagin. Well, Abu Ishaq, does your daughter have any influence over Abul Abbas? There is certainly some. But how much it will remain now? That is a matter of concern. Mahmud's sister Nahida is very clever. It seems now my daughter can no longer keep her influence intact. Behind them, Sultan Mahmud's two intelligence officials were listening to their conversation. Whenever Alaftagin and his companions looked toward them, they both appeared to be engrossed in watching the field games. Due to the intense competition, the crowds of spectators were in a frenzy and the whole area was buzzing with shouts of excitement and joy. In this midst, Sultan Mahmud's two intelligence officials were trying to hear Governor Alaftagin and his companions' conversation, but they did not discuss the matter much longer. Changing the subject, they began talking on very ordinary social conversation. But from the initial conversation, Sultan Mahmud's intelligence officials had been able to understand these people could not be at all happy about this wedding. They were busy with the arrangement of some terrible conspiracy. Very soon, they would take some step against King Abul Abbas. The Grand Abul Abbas's post-wedding celebration ceremony continued until midnight. After midnight, when the event ended, everyone headed home as they were. The guests from far away went to sleep in their designated guest houses. When everyone went to their respective sleeping rooms, Bukhara Governor Alaftagin, experienced Commander Abu Ishaq, and Commander Kamratash gathered in the same room. After midnight, suddenly from inside a veiled woman entered through their room's door. Coming into the room, the woman immediately removed the niqab from her face. This woman was none other than Abul Abbas's second wife, Commander Abu Ishaq's daughter Al-Juri. I have come to know all of last night's matters. As soon as I sat down, said Al-Juri. For Nahida's wedding night, the maidservant who had been assigned, I had previously won her over. She was supposed to spend the wedding night with her ear pressed to the door to hear what Abul Abbas and Nahida were talking about. Her duty that night was to stay beside Abul Abbas's door, so even if anyone saw her staying with her ear pressed to the door, there was nothing to say. The maidservant cleverly left a leaf of one of the room's windows slightly open. Within no time, Abul Abbas himself called the maidservant inside and took her. Nahida and Abul Abbas's conversation continued in the maidservant's presence. What I heard through the maidservant, I am telling you. Nahida has not come as Abul Abbas's wife. She has come with a tough purpose and trap. Abul Abbas also does not consider her merely a wife. From Abul Abbas's conversation, it is understood he is blind with love for Nahida, and he thinks Nahida is also his heart's empress. The royal culture of that era, and the matter of maidservants listening to the private conversations of kings' princes' bedchambers, seems outlandish in today's light, but in that era it was not at all unusual. The information old Juri passed on about Abul Abbas and Nahida's intimate conversations through the maidservant was roughly as follows. Nahida told Abul Abbas, "Abul Abbas, if you have married me for the need of a third wife, then tell me clearly, so I can tell you that openly. I will keep your love in the jewel box of my heart, and shed tears of grief alone." "No, Nahida, I needed you, not for the sake of a wife, as there was no shortage of women for me, because even in the state of being your brother's wife, you used to love me so much." "I loved you then. But that love was different. In the character of an idol-smashing mujahid sister, there can be no moral failing. A husband cannot be deceived. Then your every movement and conversation, all of it appealed to me. It was a virtuous sister-in-law's pure affection for a virtuous brother-in-law, in which there was no impurity. Then, should I understand this, that you liked me very much, and for that reason you agreed to marry me?" said Abul Abbas to Nahida. "No, I agreed to marry you not only for that reason," said Nahida. "Just as you had no shortage of wives in terms of suitors, I too had no shortage of men. In the Ghazni Sultanate, hundreds of brave, handsome young men were eager to get me. In marrying you, besides my love, I have another purpose. I have not come just with love. I have come with a sacred message. This message is no worldly message, nor any royal message from my brother's side. This message is Allah's given message, Abul Abbas. Will you not agree with me on this? Future generations will know Ghazni as the city of idol smashers. Can you deny that in the Sultanate, Ghazni is standing as a thorn for the neighboring Muslim kingdoms? All of them together have risen to stain this luminous chapter of Islam with darkness. There is no way to deny your words, said Abul Abbas. What you are saying is all true. But these complex matters, have you raised them on the first night of the wedding? Do you want to send all my love, emotion, and enthusiasm to the battlefield tonight? Yes, if you think so, then I want to send them to the battlefield tonight, because the first night of the wedding is very pure and sacred for any person. As you know, Abul Abbas, the wedding night is no new thing for you. For me too, this night is not the first of life. I will not destroy your love, emotions, and enthusiasm at all. If by getting me, some colorful dreams of your life become more colorful, I will help make those colorful dreams even more colorful with my own efforts. Tell me the complex words stored deep in your mind and give me the chance to understand your dreams. There is still much of the night left. Many more nights will come in life. I will make every night of yours enchanting. But first listen to a few important words of mine patiently. Tonight we are going to swim in the ocean of happiness. This night is filled with grief for thousands of daughters, wives, and mothers of Ghazni. Thousands of young women of Ghazni tonight, again with unbearable torment of separation from their beloved husbands, are spending the night in silence, whose husbands will never come back to them again. Those soldiers of Allah filling the sky air with the cry of Allah Akbar went to Hindustan. There they were caught in a completely hostile environment and unfavorable circumstances. Many of them could not return. Before going they had sworn, wherever they go they will establish mosques, uproot idol worship from Allah's earth. They gave their lives on Allah's path. Tonight I am dedicating all my love, happiness, and joy to those pure souls of theirs, Abul Abbas. In contrast to these, look at those power-hungry kingdoms' political direction, whose every Muslim homeland is stained with the blood of Muslims. Every Muslim kingdom is fighting civil war. Tonight, this sacred night, if you patiently listen to my words, Then in Muslim kingdoms, brother's sword will keep cutting brother's head. From brother's bow, the arrow will keep piercing brother's chest. Tonight I am remembering those mothers, sisters, and young women whose every happiness, dream, aspiration has been reduced to ash in the unjust hostility of power-hungry kingdoms. Abul Abbas, you are a spirited young man. I am also young. Come. Leaving aside the colourful dreams of wedding night and the excitement of youth for a moment, let us discuss a few important matters. Abul Abbas, can you tell me, why did Khwarizm Shah never attack Ghazni, your late father? Why was he a victim of murder? Do you know, he was incited to attack Ghazni, but he was not at all able to attack Ghazni, so he was killed. Your elder brother was mentally devastated by the father's untimely death. Day by day, his mental state worsened. On the very first night I married him, I had said all these words to him too. He took my every word to the jewel box of his heart. Well, Nahida, do you know that it was your brother Mahmud who reportedly gave poison to the brother? He was reportedly killed by poison because he refused to accept Sultan Mahmud's subjugation. Do you believe this story? Asked Nahida. I could not exactly believe it, but it did create doubts in my mind, said Abul Abbas. There is no room for doubt and suspicion here. The military commander who with 1/4 or 1/5 the number of enemy soldiers always challenges the enemy's powerful military forces and wrests victory. The Khwarizm crisis. The conspiracy of Alaftajin, Kamratash, and Abu Isha comes to a head. They incite a rebellion against King Abul Abbas, ultimately having him murdered. Nahid is also killed or imprisoned. Sultan Mahmud, enraged at this betrayal and the murder of his sister, launches a swift military campaign against Khwarizm, crushes the conspirators, and annexes the state into the Ghazni Sultanate 107 CE. Return to India. After stabilizing Khwarizm, Sultan Mahmud reorganizes his forces and turns his attention back to India. He campaigns against Multan and pushes toward the famous Somnath temple in Gujarat, building toward the climactic 11th campaign, one of the most celebrated in the series. The Somnath campaign. The novel closes with preparations and early stages of the legendary march to Somnath, setting up the next volume. The Khwarizm betrayal. The conspirators Alaftajin, Kamratash, and Abu Ishaq move against King Abul Abbas. They incite the soldiers against him, accusing him of surrendering Khwarizm's independence to Sultan Mahmud through the marriage. They stage a coup, kill Abul Abbas, and seize power. Nahid is taken prisoner. Sultan Mahmud receives the devastating news of his sister's fate and his brother-in-law's murder. Burning with fury, he immediately mobilizes his rebuilt forces and marches on Khwarizm. Mahmud's conquest of Khwarizm. Sultan Mahmud reaches Khwarizm with lightning speed. The conspirators are routed. Alaftajin and his allies are captured, tried, and executed. Khwarizm is absorbed into the Ghazni Sultanate. The Sultan appoints a loyal governor and returns to Ghazni, having secured his northern flank permanently. Preparations for Somnath back in Ghazni. The Sultan reorganizes his forces and intelligence networks. Reports reach him about the enormous wealth of the Somnath temple in Gujarat and its deep religious significance to the Hindus. He begins meticulous planning for what will become his most celebrated campaign into India. The march begins. The volume closes as Sultan Mahmud leads his army out of Ghazni toward India. The narrative builds anticipation for the Somnath campaign, which will be the subject of the next volume in the series.